Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, Latara. Back today. We are a trio today. What did you call us, Karen? A Bermuda Triangle?
A Bermuda Triangle, yes, indeed.
Yeah, because we deal with the Bermuda Triangle in these episodes. So, yes, today it's myself. Karen is with us as well as Eric. Thank you both for being here.
Hello, hello.
Hey,
Yeah.
everyone.
I'm so excited. Like I told Eric and Karen before we got on, I had been like toying with the idea of having more than one guest on, like doing like more of a panel type thing, and I just hadn't done it. And this week I fucked myself anyway. So because I forgot that Karen had asked to do these episodes and I already had Eric scheduled, so I had Karen come on and do these episodes with us. So it all works out.
This is perfect. It feels like we're on The View and we're just going to talk about passions, hot topics. I'm grateful. I will be the Joy Behar of today and going, so what? Who cares?
So what?
Uh,
Who cares?
I am absolutely excited to talk with you, Karen and Latara. We're going to get to talk about sleepwalking, sleep talking, and attempted sleep fornicating.
Fornicate. That was crazy. I'm gonna pause real quick because my sound is like weird.
Yeah.
Here I'm gonna. Yes, we are about to have a good time, y'all. This week was chaotic as hell. We are talking about episodes 651 through 655. Yes,
That's correct.
perfect. And yeah, it was, I mean, pure chaos, chaos itself, chaos incarnate. And I honestly, I really enjoyed it, but it made taking notes very, very hard. Like, I don't know if y'all had a similar situation, but I was struggling.
Yeah, I popped over from bubble to bubble because I was like Shui's 1 minute and then hanging out with Kay and Charity and like it was just we were all over the place and I'm
It
okay
was,
with that.
yeah, like it was a lot of fun to watch. But and this week has a little bit of everything. So I will say this might be a very long episode, especially since there's three of us and we all have things to say. So if you are one of those people who are a big fan of having really long episodes, this one's for you. This one's for you. So before we get into the episode, I want to give a shout out to all our patrons over on Patreon, including my two friends that are here today. Thank you to oops, let me fix the thing. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Brelin, Lisa, Sid, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, Casey, and our newest patron, Garanch. I think that's how you say it, Garanch, Garentch. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, please just like send me a message and say like, "This is not how you pronounce it, you bitch," and I will
Right.
get, get it the fuck right. No, try not to call me a bitch, but I get it. I've
But
had my name.
I appreciate that you gave it some Teresa like some Ivy like treatment to the word bitch. I'm grateful. We got a lot of
Listen,
good comebacks to talk about.
yeah, at least I
Well, we
didn't.
have great lines in these episodes. I can't wait to talk about that.
I can't wait to hear all the things that y'all wrote down because I'm gonna be real with y'all. And I was trying my best to take notes. I hardly got any like quotes down because there's just so much going on. So
It
I,
was a
anyway,
lot.
I bet.
let's let's get into the episode. Let's get into the episode. So we're gonna start with Theresa and Ethan and Gwen and what's going on with them, and get into Chad and Whitney because this week we did get a little more Chad and Whitney, which I was pretty appreciative of. So we pick up this week and Theresa is watching Gwen and Ethan, who are like cuddled up on a park bench already. Ethan, so quick, so soon.
I think again it was just this is just the writers trying to sandwich the storyline real fast to just make it look like to just annoy Teresa, right? To like make Teresa feel like she's gone crazy and now look they are together and it was not even that. They were totally having like we'll be friends conversation, but they decide to cuddle while being friends.
Yeah, it
Friends
didn't
don't do
look
that.
like that. That's not what it looked like, but yeah, that's the conversation they were having. Is that basically Ethan was saying, I'm so glad to have a friend like you. I know you would never lie to me. And so Theresa and Whitney are together at this point, watching Ethan and Gwen, and Teresa's like, "Look at her. I basically served him up on a silver platter to Gwen. She didn't waste a minute going after him." And she didn't. She did not. So, yeah, Ethan's having this conversation with Gwen, telling her he's glad he ran into her. She says, "All I want is for you to be happy." And he's like, "You're the only person in my life that's always been honest with me." He's just such a poor judge of character.
He is.
And she's like, "I would never be anything but honest with you, Ethan." Okay, she's just laying it on so thick. So Whitney and Theresa are watching all this, and Theresa turns to Whitney and is like, "Wait a minute, why the fuck are you here? Last I saw you, you were ready to declare your love to Chad. Why are you still here talking to me?" And Whitney explains that she saw Chad like talking to a girl at the book cafe. And again, the way it looked, the girl was like holding his hand. It did look a little suspicious, you know. And if you're 18, it's embarrassing. It's humiliating. You don't want to like even ask about it. I feel like I remember being in a similar situation. Not exactly like, it's not like I was ready to fuck my brother or anything, but you remember being a teenager and not being able to communicate effectively, right?
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
and you last week you put it in my head, and so this week I did give Whitney some grace because I'm still a little aggravated by her just already assuming that Chad moved on that fast. Like I would just want her. I mean, she knows Chad better than all of the Russells and pretty much anybody else, and so it just still aggravates me that she is like he moved on. But again, you gave me that insight, and so I give her some benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, and to be fair to Whitney as well, Chad in this week basically tells us he's moving on, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So she was not right. I mean, she wasn't wrong in her assumption that Chad had decided to kind of move on. And it's not that, and it doesn't make Chad a bad person, right?
Yeah.
It just means that Whitney has missed her chance.
Yeah.
And that's how she's feeling now, I think. So she's talking to Theresa about the whole situation. And that's when at first Whitney's ready to like go back and try again because Teresa's like, don't let what happened to me happen to you, Whitney. Don't let what happened to me. It's like it wouldn't happen to what happened to you could never happen to Whitney. Let's be clear. Let's be very clear about that. But basically she's been spurred on by Theresa. Teresa's like, "Look, I can see that you love Chad. Go tell him. Go tell him." And she's like gonna turn around, and as soon as she turns around, she sees Chad walking with that girl because they're coming to go ice skating on a nice little nighttime ice skate. And so then Theresa and Whitney like hide in the bushes, which I did not get at all. You know,
Yeah. I guess they were getting their Tabitha and Timmy on. They just felt compelled to like, yeah,
it
Mhm.
hide
Yeah,
in
I
the
was
lights.
about to say they pulled the Tabitha.
yeah, they pulled a tab. It also reminded me of. Have you ever seen the Cinderella with Brandy and Whitney Houston?
Yeah. I
It
just
rem
talked about it in my class a while ago. We were talking about Rogers and Hammerstein,
it,
Cinderella.
it is my, and this might sound crazy to some people, but it is my favorite movie. If anybody ever asks me like, "What's your favorite movie?" That's my favorite movie, based on a few metrics. Not that it's the best movie ever made. It's not my opinion that it's the greatest movie. It is just my favorite movie, right? It's the movie that I can watch over and over again. Anyway, this particular moment reminded me of the stepsisters. Why would a fellow want a girl like her? A girl who's merely
Dearly
lovely.
lovely.
I was like, oh my gosh, they're like the two little stepsisters in the bushes
Hmm.
lurking. So anyway, Chad has a conversation with Ethan while Gwen and this random girl whose name we don't even know go to get hot chocolate or something. And he tells Ethan flat out, he's like, "Whitney turned me down again." And that's why I feel like it's time for me to start moving on, because Ethan's like, he sees the girl and he tells Chad, he's like, "Did I miss something? Like, what's going on with you and Whitney?" And so Chad tells him, "I gave Whitney another chance and to like be honest with me about her feelings, but it's just too tough to be rejected over and over and over again." And he says, "Sometimes you just have to face up to the harsh reality." And I agree with Chad. I agree with Chad. He's young And he's been begging this girl at this point for years to see him, to appreciate him, to validate him, to love him. Pick me, choose me, right?
Yeah, but let's also add the added pressure of having to continuously gaslight Simone. Like that's another layer of like I'm just kind of tired of this. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I'm also like we're hurting this other person too. Like and you're making me do that. Like I would tell her immediately that I'm not into her, but you're making me do this.
Yeah.
What about Simone, you guys? Maybe I forgot something. Did they ever tell Simone that Chad was not into her, or is that still a thing that she thinks he's her boyfriend?
She still thinks he's her boyfriend. It's
Oh
it's
God.
horrible. It's messed up. It's like, I mean, if Chad had decided to move on from Whitney, I do think that's a loose end he should have tied up, right? Before he started like seeing other girls. Because the
You're absolutely correct. I didn't even
right?
think of that. You were absolutely correct. Like he's
Yeah,
just
because
walking
now
around with this
Simone's
other
going
girl now.
yeah, Simone's going to think he's seeing Kelly. Like, what the hell?
Yep. And so he should have cleared that up with her. But he has not, and he's out on a date with this random girl. Meanwhile, like I said, Theresa and Whitney are like looking on while these four people, because the two girls, Gwen and the girl, come back, and they're just drinking hot chocolate, chopping it up. And Theresa tells Whitney, don't throw your love away, don't throw Chad away. And Whitney looks at Theresa and says, "No offense, Theresa, but when I start taking relationship advice from you, I know I'm in trouble." Ah! I mean,
Harsh but true.
harsh but true. She's not wrong. She's not wrong. And then Theresa says, the situation that I find myself in, Whitney, might I remind you, is not my fault. And I mean, on one hand, I get where Teresa's coming from. It's not entirely her fault, but she did continue to lie to Ethan over and over and over again. Like that is the sticking point for Ethan.
Yeah.
Like it typically has not been about what the lie is. It's about the fact that you lied in the first place.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it is your fault, right? It is your fault. And as y'all know, I love Teresa, but wrong is wrong and right is right. So Teresa continues to encourage her to like follow your heart. Uh, and then this was funny to me. Gwen and Ethan like leave Chad and that girl. Teresa very quickly says to Whitney, like, "You need to follow your heart to Chad." And then she sees them leaving and she's like, "Okay, so bye, see ya."
I'm about to follow my heart that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow my heart over this way and just keep stalking these two.
I'm here for you, Whitney, but right now every woman for herself. I gotta go fix this.
Yeah. And so she follows them to the book cafe, and Gwen notices Teresa like on the coming in because she's like ready to talk to Ethan. She's like, "Ethan, I need to talk to you." I think she's calling after him, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know, did he not hear her? Or did he just ignore her?
I don't think he heard her. I think there was two shots kind of alluding to the fact that Teresa was kind of chasing after the two of them, and they got to the book cafe prior to him being able to hear her.
Well, he
That was
goes
what I
in.
understood.
He goes inside. Teresa turns around. I mean, Gwen turns around and stops Teresa before she can even cross the threshold. She says, like, "Wait right there, Miss Missy." She's like, "You've hurt Ethan enough." And just says a bunch of horrible things. I did not write them down.
I wrote some of them down
Go
because
for it.
all of the stuff that I was like, you know what, good job, Gwen, last week. Now I get to take all those points back because she says some nasty ass stuff to Teresa. Particularly one thing where Teresa reminds her that Julian got her drunk. To which she says, "I've gotten drunk before too, Teresa, but I've always managed to keep my drawers on." And I was like, talk about vindictive.
Yeah. No, that was super nasty.
Yeah, Gwen was just, I mean, it was just a little over the top. I mean, she definitely knows that she has the upper hand right now, being able to have access to Ethan. But one of the things that really pisses me off, because she lays it on thick that Teresa slept with Julian, a man who could be the age of her father. She lays it on thick. And it upsets me because even Gwen has already mentioned that she knows full well that is more likely that Julian took advantage of Theresa versus the other way around. So she's just doing it to get her edge in, to be able to just
Yeah,
really
just
stick it to her. That's what I
yeah.
was trying to say.
She's just
And
trying to stab her some more. What were we gonna say, Karen?
yeah, I was just going to say, and Gwen's probably something like 25, 26 years old. Theresa is 18, 19. Gwen knows that Theresa was drinking for the first time when she was in Bermuda, and she wasn't drinking because she wanted to. So it's different when Theresa had never had alcohol, so she didn't know how it would affect her.
Yeah.
But
And sh
Gwen's acting like, oh, you should have been able to hold your liquor.
and to be fair to Theresa also, she didn't want to drink in the first place. She declined the drinks at first.
Mhm.
But Julian basically told her, I'm not willing to talk to you unless you have a little drink with me.
Yeah.
And so they continued to drink. So yeah, and I agree with you, Eric, about the all the nastiness and the horrible victim blaming that Gwen does. However, there is one important thing Gwen says that I was like, finally, somebody said it. Gwen says to Theresa, your annulment was invalidated by your pregnancy. You're now the wife of one of the richest men in the world. Yes, girl. Listen, Theresa, cut your losses.
Mhm.
Cut
And
your
it's
losses.
so funny because it is said kind of in passing, like you hear it and it's a huge statement, but you don't recognize how huge that statement is until later on in the episode and or week. And that's where we're gonna get some exciting stuff happen.
Yeah, and so this statement to Theresa, it doesn't dawn on her until a little bit later exactly what Gwen just said to her, because the way Gwen said it, it was an insult. She said
Hmm.
it as if Theresa had been out to score this rich man the entire time, and it's like, congratulations, you got what you wanted, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, she said something like her being able to like go from one generation to the next just to get her hands on the Crane fortune, basically. Something along those lines.
Yeah. Teresa accuses Gwen of trying to get back together with Ethan, and Gwen's like, yeah, yes, and I actually loved it. I actually loved it. I was like, yeah, of course.
Because in their own rights, they are both, yeah, they're both okay with going forward and making their moves on this guy. So
Gwen's like, he first of all, he was mine first. Second of all, he's not with you anymore. Why shouldn't I? I'm not doing anything wrong. She's not. And she's
yeah,
not.
I hear it in my head like Amber Riley going, and you would too for a check. Like,
I was gonna be employee of the month, and that's on period. That's not Amber Riley. That's Coco Jones.
oh, gotcha. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, thank you. I think I've heard her say it about Glee. I think that's why I got confused.
I love that clip. I just love that clip. It's so funny. But and it just applies to so many things.
Yeah,
If you work a job where there's any part of it that you don't like, you're like, but
yeah,
I did it. I did it.
that's
And
right.
you would too for a check.
So they both know each other. They both know their spades calling each other a spade, basically.
Yeah. So Gwen accuses Teresa of like trying to, or of stealing Ethan from her. We just rehashed the past, but
Yeah,
I appreciated it because it has been a long time since we heard or thought about like the origins of this whole story, and we are moving into a new arc of their love triangle. And I think it is important that we remember how did this start, where did we begin with this.
yeah.
And so Gwen accuses her of stealing Ethan from her in the first place, and Teresa says, no, he fell out of love with you and in love with me, honey.
I felt like that was straight up you talking for Teresa. I felt like you were in the bushes, Tabitha, like Cyrano de Bergerac, going like giving Teresa what to say, because that is a point that you have mentioned many many times on this podcast.
And here's the thing. I subscribe to the idea, the belief that you can't steal something that will walk out of your life, right? Like somebody can't steal something from you. That a person has to be, they can get up and walk away. He
Yeah,
got up and walked away, and that's what happened. She didn't steal him from her. Like, I want to be clear on that front. Now people can talk about, oh, she manipulated and she schemed and she did that and she did this, but at the end of the day, Ethan took his happy ass right over to Theresa. And every time some bullshit came up, he still stood 10 toes down with Theresa every
Yeah.
single time.
The only
And
person in Harmony that's been able to steal somebody away is David Hastings, and that was kidnapping of Grace from Sam.
right, right. And so anyway, we're not gonna rehash all the bullshit, but y'all know how I feel about it. Anyway, um, Gwen though, I mean, they both gave some good points.
Mhm.
Gwen makes a good point where she says, Theresa, Ethan's life hasn't gotten better since he's been with you. It's only gotten worse. Like so much worse. And then she goes down the list. She's like, if he had never met you, he'd still be a crane. He'd be practicing law. He like wouldn't be going through all of this bullshit where he's devastated because his fiance slept with his used to be daddy and is pregnant. Like he would be better off. And Gwen was actually, I'm not, I can't falter for it. What she said is absolutely true. Had Ethan not met Theresa, none of this would have happened.
Would he still be a crane though? That's the one I maybe disagree with, because Ivy was ready on several occasions to blurt out that secret, and something always stopped her. Maybe she would have gotten to the point where she would have told Sam.
That's one of those things where we'll never know, right? I do know that by the time the information did come out, Ivy had gone back to, I don't want it to ever come out again, right?
Mhm.
Like, so because she waffled a lot on that, right? Like she was ready to blow up her whole life, and then she's like, no,
Several times.
no, I can't, no.
I
So
I would I would I would suggest or have premonition that she might have done it if she knew two things. One, she was secure in her lifestyle, and two, that it was going to be some kind of nail in the coffin for Sam and Grace. If there was a way to have those two things, she would have revealed the secret. But
yeah,
without the security of the Crane fortune, I don't ever think she would have done that. And making sure that Ethan would still be entitled to the Crane fortune.
I agree. I agree. That's right. That's a good analysis, doctor.
There we go.
Okay. So, Gwen tells Theresa, "You did it to yourself. Like, don't whine now. You did this all to yourself. You should have told the truth." Teresa's like, "Yeah, maybe I should have told the truth, but this wasn't all my fault. Julian took advantage of me, and now, you're going to take advantage of the situation just to win Ethan back. And now I'm sure you have Rebecca and Ivy cheering you on." And then she thinks, you know what? Those two snakes have been out for me for months, but guess what? I'm about to tear them apart. And that's when she goes to the mansion, which was all the stuff at the mansion was my favorite stuff this week. Like I'm trying to get through all this stuff
Yeah.
just so we can get to the mansion because there's so much to happen in the mansion.
Yeah, the way she said it too was so awesome. And the performance was great. She was just like, those two have been trying to tear me apart, and now I'm going to go over there and tear them apart for what they did to me.
And it was fabulous. So before we go to the mansion, let's talk about what goes on with Ethan and Gwen once they go into the book cafe. This was absurd. So Ethan tells Gwen, "Oh yeah, I'm actually glad we came to the book cafe. I have a job interview here today at 8 p.m." He's like, "I have a job interview here today."
The law doesn't sleep. The law
Hey.
doesn't sleep.
And okay, I have an interview here today. So they go to the book cafe, they sit down. Gwen sits in on this interview. This was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So it's 3 people at this table. A man named Mr. Maddox, I think. And we cut to this guy hiring Ethan. He's like, "You know what? I'm going to hire you as a partner track senior associate." And then we see that Mr. Maddox has a connection to Gwen. He looks at her and says, "You were right about him, Gwen. Like, he's going to be a major asset to my firm." And Ethan then looks at this man and says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Maddox. I can't accept your offer. I can't work for you." Oh.
This is so stupid.
I
Guys,
can't-
look, I'm going to out myself right here to this podcast. I'm a lawyer. Okay. That is how you get jobs, especially in the legal field. Someone knows your qualifications, they know your skill set, and they recommend you for a job.
Yeah.
This is so dumb.
It's not outside of the norm for a lot of industries, right?
Right.
That you get recommended for a job by people who know you because they trust that you will do a good job, and that they're that because people who recommend you, they put their lives, I'm not their lives, their names, they put their names on the line for you, right? And
Mhm.
so no, I don't think anybody makes recommendations lightly, right? So the fact that Ethan was like, I need to do this on my own, and he and the mental gymnastics he had to do to turn this man down, because he says, I don't want to be getting things because I used to be a crane. What?
Yeah, and it was so absolutely frustrating because let's think about that logic here. The idea is, okay, the writers want to make him three-dimensional, multifaceted. They want to give him all of this character development. I get that. He wants to denounce all things Crane. But if that's the case, then start a new career because your law career is based off of the money that the Crane money bought you. And so it's really frustrating for him. And the one person he probably should take a letter of recommendation for is Gwen. Gwen actually knows you. She does. I mean, like she actually like cares about you. Versus something like an Alistair or a Julian, because like if they were giving you the letter of recommendation, I totally understand why you would be like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want this from them. But she's probably like the one person that I'm really the one person that you could probably take a letter of recommendation from and be like, okay, cool. Like this person actually does know me and isn't bullshitting you. Like I could get this job. But yeah, it was so stupid. Totally take the job.
And let's be clear, you need a job.
He's
You need a
homeless.
job. You are homeless. You are homeless, and you done broke up with your girlfriend who you were living with, right? You were living in her house, and you broke up with her. You don't have anywhere to live. You can't go back to Pilar's house. I mean, you can, but you're gonna have to deal with Theresa, and I don't think you want to right now. So what? You just gonna sleep at Chad's little studio apartment? Where is he living right now? He doesn't have any money.
He took his things. We just don't know where he took his things.
He can't even live in Sheridan's cottage because it's Crane property.
Yeah.
And the only reason he was able to stay there for a little while before is because Sheridan was there and was allowing him to stay there. But he can't do
Yeah.
that now. So, like, baby, you need a job. Put your pride behind you and beneath you. We are poor. He got to learn how to be poor. Poor people, we can't have pride. Okay, we can't. We can't be too prideful. We got to take the
Mhm.
jobs, and it sounded like it was going to be a great job. So this really irritated me because it's
Yeah.
like you don't even know where your next meal is coming from, honey. Living pillar to post.
And even after Ethan goes through all of that, the attorney who was interviewing him says, "Oh, I'm so impressed with you, Ethan." And he gives him his card and he says, "Let me know if you ever change your mind." He calls Ethan a first-rate attorney.
He has a sharp legal mind.
Yeah.
That's what the show is trying
So
to tell
sharp.
us.
So sharp.
So sharp. Sorry, it's just so funny to me. So Ethan then tells Gwen after Mr. Maddox leaves, he's like, I know you're just trying to help me, but I need to find a job on my own. And then she's like, oh, it's fine, Ethan. I promise it'll never happen again. It's so weird to me because Gwen, pre Theresa, I feel like had this conversation happened, Gwen would have been like, what are you doing? Like, you need a job. Get a job, right? But now she's doing this thing where she's like, whatever you want, Ethan. No matter what, Ethan, I'll do anything for you, Ethan, whatever you want. That's literally what she says.
Yeah, I feel like she totally turned on not just her Teresa Lopez Fitzgerald eyes, but the actual Hartley's eyes. Like, yeah, sure, I back you up. I'll do whatever you want. I won't contradict you because she's looking back and going, what is the difference between myself and Teresa? And I was a ball buster.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and made this conversation. I mean, I've made this point before. The difference between Gwen and Theresa, and this is an indictment on Ethan. The difference between Gwen and Theresa is that Gwen was a grown ass woman,
Mm-hmm.
and Theresa is a child.
Yeah.
That is the difference. He loved her naivete. He loved her innocence. That's what he liked about Theresa. So anyway, let's keep going.
And I want to clarify the word ball buster in that it is ambitious, right? Like it is like we're gonna work together. Like she wasn't mean. It was just like I'm gonna support you, but I'm gonna tell you what to do because we're equal in this. And I don't think Ethan is a fan of that.
Yeah, she was very much like a woman who knew her own mind, and
Exactly.
she was
So I wanted to
in the
clarify that.
and in a way she was really secure about herself. She was never
Yeah.
I don't think she was as secure about her relationship with Ethan. Well, maybe she was maybe she was too secure in her relationship with Ethan, sending them on that honeymoon. Um,
Oh God.
but yeah, I think you're right. I think she's trying to learn something, and she's trying to emulate in a way what
The big
it was
eyes.
about Theresa that
Hmm.
Ethan liked, right?
Yeah.
So that she will now be his total package. So whatever.
Absolutely.
She grabs his hand, they start to talk, like, and she's like trying to have a tender moment, and he basically puts the brakes on and is like, girl, listen, I am not trying to be your boyfriend.
He has friend zoned her all last week and this week as well. He's like, "You're a good friend. You are a great friend.
Yeah.
Grateful to have you as a friend."
Yeah, he's like, I just really can't be in a relationship right now, which is, of course you can't. Of
It
course.
happened seconds ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so meanwhile, let's go to the mansion. Ivy and Rebecca are at the mansion. So Ivy explains to Rebecca about her marital status being single, like Rebecca, like, you're single now, babe. Like, you're not married, you thought you were, and that oh wait, they argue about who's gonna throw who out. Okay, let me go back.
Yes.
Rewind. I'm gonna rewind. Okay. At the mansion, Ivy and Gwen, Jesus Christ. Okay, wait. Okay. At the mansion, Ivy and Rebecca basically are arguing about who's gonna throw who out, right? Like, Ivy feels like it's her home because she was Mrs. Crane, and Rebecca's marriage is actually null and void now that, all this stuff with Teresa's annulment. And Rebecca, I don't know what Rebecca thinks her claim is. I guess she thinks that Julian, well, no, Julian can't marry her. They all think he's probably dead. So I don't know why she's still at this house, actually.
Well, we have an attorney here right now. I mean, like, to talk about the intent to marry, they did get married. It was annulled. I mean, Karen?
Is she entitled to anything at all?
Guys, I know some law. Okay, I do not know all of the law. I do not know passions law.
I was about to ask. You don't specialize in harmony law?
No, I do not. Before I talk about any of this, let me just give a quick disclaimer to cover my ass. Anything I say on this podcast is my opinion. It's not legal advice. Every case is different. If you have a legal issue, talk to an attorney and tell them what's going on with your specific situation. And my opinions are my own and not those of my employer.
My deepest prayer is that some listener out there cites this podcast in a courtroom.
Oh my God, I
Oh
would
my
die.
God, no, we can't. But the divorce or the annulment, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a family law attorney, so I don't know exactly how that would work. The whole Ivy Julian divorce thing, I wrote on our Discord a while back about that because it was so dumb. Julian couldn't have divorced Ivy in Bermuda because that was not where they lived. It was not where they got married. There was no jurisdiction in Bermuda. And then the fact that they were trying to contest it after it was over or after the divorce was final, it doesn't work like that either, because you file for divorce and then the parties have a certain amount of time to contest it if they want to.
Oh.
Anyway,
I love this stuff. I love learning. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're always talking, like, I feel like oftentimes we find things in the show where, like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. But we don't always have the full knowledge of the thing. So I'm glad that we have somebody who does have the full knowledge. She is the law.
Yeah.
Just like Luis.
Just like Luis.
Just like
oh
Luis.
God, the police. We'll get to that in a little while.
Lord Jesus, I have been saying it since day one that the Harmony PD is the most corrupt police department on earth. On earth. So we will get there soon because they show up to the mansion to do their quote interrogation, and it's a
Yeah.
mess. Okay, so they're these two women. They're arguing about whose house this is. And Rebecca tells Ivy, they at one point they talk about how Gwen is kind of the one thing they can agree on, that Gwen is better for Ethan than Theresa and whatever. So they have champagne for some reason.
Yeah, so basically what happens is, remember, Gwen did call Rebecca at some point while she was kind of eavesdropping at the Lopez Fitzgeralds. So Rebecca does know that Gwen was already there to console Ethan. So that's why she tells Ivy that. And they're like, hey, at least we can celebrate this, right? And so they're like, actually, yeah, we can celebrate this. And they pour some champagne together, and they are basically like gloating and just reveling in the fact that Theresa is done for when it comes to Ethan.
And it is important that when Rebecca tells Ivy that Gwen is with Ethan and that she's consoling Ethan, that Ivy is overjoyed, and she exclaims, "It worked! Everything I've done has paid off," out loud. And so Rebecca, of course, smart cookie Rebecca, tunes into that and is like, "What do you mean everything? It all worked out? What are you saying?" So she realizes that Ivy was the one who tipped off the tabloids about Theresa being pregnant with Julian's baby. But of course, Ivy denies it, right? But these two women know what's up, right? Like Ivy knows that once Rebecca's onto you, she's not going to be off of you ever again. Like she's onto you, she knows what happened. You can deny it all you want, but it is what it is. And Ivy will continue to deny it, and Rebecca will continue to be like, "I know what you did, ha 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 ha."
And
So
Rebecca says confession is good for the soul, Ivy, when she's trying to get Ivy to admit she was the one who tipped off the tabloids. And then Ivy says, you think I tipped off the tabloids because that's the sort of thing you would do, Rebecca. Oh, Ivy, follow that train of thought just a little more.
she rolled
You
right up to the point and missed it, went right around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow that. But she hates Theresa. She wants to hate Theresa. She
Yeah.
wants to hate Theresa. She wants to believe that Theresa is responsible for every single bad thing that has gone wrong in her life. She has said so several times at this point.
That's
And
the thing. The honest to God's truth is she just needs a scapegoat, and that is the easiest person for her to blame for all of her problems.
yeah. Yeah.
Besides herself.
Yeah. And so, yeah, she says that's the type of thing that you would do, Rebecca. And then she says, and it's your turn to face defeat, Rebecca. You gave up your pathetic life to try and steal mine, only to find out it's not going to work out. And then Rebecca's about to like attack her like physically, and then that's when the maid comes in with the champagne, and they decide to celebrate instead of fight each other. And they're celebrating the fact that Ethan has dumped Theresa. And I think Ivy says, "Good riddance to bad rubbish, Theresa Lopez Fitzgerald." Yeah. It was a lovely, not lovely's the wrong word. It was great delivery from
Oh yeah.
Ivy.
Yes, we can love our evil queens.
Yeah.
We can love them.
Yes.
Evil queen.
Cheers to the evil queens.
For sure. And that's when, so she says, "Good riddance to bad rubbish, Theresa Lopez Fitzgerald." And Pilar walks in and she says, "What have you done to my daughter?" And so, we're adding Pilar into the mix, which was fun and exciting. Ivy says, "I haven't done anything to that little slut." Oh my God. Ivy's so funny. She's like, "I haven't done anything to her. Calm down." Theresa brought all this on herself. And Pilar's like, I don't condone what my daughter has done, but how did the press find out about Theresa's situation when there was only a few people who knew, and I know none of us would have told, right? And she says, you're the only one, Ivy, who would have used this against my daughter, who would have used this against my daughter. So Pilar says,
oh, go ahead.
she says, "If I find out that you're responsible for the situation that my daughter is in, I will get behind your wheelchair and push you over a cliff." Oh my God. Let's not forget.
Smiling. That's
while
what she
smiling, yes. Let's not forget that at this moment, Pilar works for Ivy. Like, not you telling your employer you will murder them.
And
Like,
here's there's so much going on. I'm telling you, if I had a John Madden highlighter and I could pause it and just dissect this scene, it is so much fun because as soon as Pilar threatens Ivy, they get a camera shot of Rebecca and Andrea Evans' incredible eyebrows just being like, I like this a lot. Ooh, this is great. To which again, eventually, Pilar's like, and if I find out that you did something, I'll push you over a cliff as well.
it was so funny because she was like, I don't know why you're laughing. I know a bitch that I hate even more than Ivy Crane shouldn't be fucking laughing right now because I'll push you right over the same motherfucking cliff, bitch. Don't even get it twisted. I don't even look in my direction. You better not be. I know a bitch like you is not smiling in my direction. Oh, it was great. It was great. It was great. She was like, no, I know you're not laughing. I'll push you over the cliff too, bitch. Like, it's not fun in games. It is not.
Yeah.
And she
At this
says,
point, I
go
just
ahead.
feel like I was gonna say, I just at this point I just feel like Ivy and Pilar have come to like an impasse, and they're like they again. I'm now I can constantly reevaluate their friendship or lack thereof, but now I think they're just have this like, okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree, and we're gonna just keep going, because
Yeah, you're
otherwise, you're right. She just threatened Ivy in her in Teresa's house, really.
and baby, it's about to get so good. So, yes, I love these three women kind of like arguing with each other. Uh, at one point, Pilar says, talks about somebody tipping off the tabloid, and she knows it wasn't her daughter from her daughter's computer. That's what she's talking about. She knows that my daughter didn't send the letter to the tabloid, ruining your life, Ivy. And of course, Ivy doesn't believe that, and we've already talked about that. Rebecca then says some racist shit about Latina tempers and
Yeah. She says something about I guess something about Pilar, you're being so fiery. I guess it's true what they say about Latino tempers.
Teresa, I'm not Teresa. Pilar says this has nothing to do with my heritage. I'll do anything to protect my daughter. And then she shows them the newspaper with Julian's face, and that he's like missing, and the police suspect foul play. Right, is what the headline is. They haven't seen that. They didn't know that.
Yeah.
They were
And
shocked.
yes, and that's again one of the things that I laugh about is that this show constantly forgets who they're trying to implicate because the two of them looked shocked and there was no like feigning shockness. They just looked shocked. And so then the rest of this week we're going to get accusatory dialogue throughout the entire episodes, and it's very annoying and frustrating because somebody's going to slip and say something that could make them sound guilty, and then it's like, "Oh, but let me play it off." And that's all week this week. And it's probably
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be for a couple weeks.
yeah. Oh, it's gonna be forever. So, at this point, this is when Theresa shows up. So shit's about to get real good. Theresa shows up at the mansion, and she's standing outside, through that window. She's not
That
in the.
Ivy
She's not.
crashed her wheelchair through.
Yeah, exactly. No, she's not at the front door. She's at kind of like the side window door or whatever. And she's kind of spying on what's going on inside. Pilar at this point has walked away, is not there with Ivy and Rebecca. And so Theresa is seeing these two women basically celebrate, right? They're having champagne. And Theresa does not like what she's seeing. So she barges in and she yells, "Damn you both! Damn you both!" And
She,
that's
she
when,
says, "Those witches."
yeah, well, she goes in, and Ivy and Rebecca protest, right? They're like, "Get out of here, Theresa. What are you doing here? You need to leave." And Theresa like grabs both of their glasses, smashes them in the fireplace. And that's when Pilar comes back in, and she's like, "What's going on here, Theresa?" And Theresa goes on a tirade about how uh, she and Ethan never had a chance because Ivy and Rebecca were always there to ruin any chance of happiness that they had. And then she says, "You two are like two puppeteers pulling the strings to make whatever you want happen." And she says, "Maybe I did make mistakes, but so much has happened that I still cannot explain. There's a lot of unanswered questions," right? And so she brings up the original tabloid letter, right? And that she didn't send it from her computer, and she knows she didn't. And she talks about she also suspects Ivy of exposing her to her pregnancy to the tabloid, right? So then Ivy's like, that is enough. You need to get out now. Oh, hey, Mouse. Mouse is coming to the chat. And Mouse loves
Mouse.
to hear us talk about Theresa.
Mouse in the house.
Mouse in the house. So
Sorry. She looked right at the camera. Get away. Get away.
so cute.
I'm so sorry.
No, I think it's adorable. So
Well, I'm just gonna say that it made me laugh when Pilar came in and was like, "What is happening?" Rebecca said, "Your daughter is loco."
oh my gosh.
I think that shit's hysterical.
So ridiculous. So Ivy tells Theresa, that's enough. You need to get out. And Rebecca's like, yes, I am Mrs. Crane, and you need to get out of my house. And Ivy says, no, Rebecca, I am still Mrs. Crane. And then these two go back and forth about who is Mrs. Crane. And Theresa realizes, she says, she goes, oh my God, it's me. Excuse me, ladies, but I am the one and only Mrs. Crane. So shut up and listen up. Oh! Yes.
And it was absolutely delicious. I gotta say, if anybody, it was like Theresa evolved like at that particular moment. If you any Pokemon stuff, like Theresa's about to assume her new form because she tells Mama, will you please get Ivy and Rebecca some tissues? They're gonna need them. Cause starting here and now, your lives will never be the same. It was so much swagger on those lines. It was a chef's kiss.
It was amazing. And so reality starts to set in on Ivy and Rebecca that the annulment means nothing because Theresa is pregnant with Julian's child, right? And Theresa says as much. And Pilar, we get a quick little moment about the abortion. Pilar is overjoyed that Theresa didn't go through with the abortion. And Ivy thinks that Theresa's lying, saying, no, but I saw the pictures of you at the clinic. And Teresa's like, I guess your spies weren't as thorough as you thought they were. I never went through with with the abortion. I'm still pregnant with the Crane heir. Oh, she said, you two bitches think you know how to play dirty? Well, you just watch Mama Crane, me. Oh, Theresa, I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of her, honestly. I've been waiting. This is the moment I've been waiting for because this is the Theresa that I truly love. Like,
yeah, and you are absolutely right. This is a new Theresa. There will always be hints of the old Theresa, but now it is combined with this Theresa who has gumption, who is going to fight, who is not going to just sit by.
She's empowered.
Yep,
she's
absolutely.
empowered. She's been someone who hasn't had power her entire life. She's been poor. She's, been from a family that didn't have any influence. And now she is a wealthy widow, right? Like, for all intents and purposes, like, she's not a wealthy widow. She's the wealthy widow, right? She's the Crane widow. And so I love to see her coming into her power and deciding to make moves for herself outside of like what Ethan means in her life, right? Like, I know that will always be a factor for Theresa, for sure.
Yeah, Ethan is endgame, but
it's at this moment she's like, you know what? I need to deal with the problems right in front of me, and the problems in front of me are Ivy and Rebecca. And if I can't have Ethan, at least I can get my get back. Right? At least I can get my revenge a little bit. So I love it. I'm sorry, y'all. I know there's some people who hate this version of Theresa. This is the version of Theresa for me. Like, these next couple of years where she's Mrs. Crane, love it.
Oh, I remember this clear as day as any, like, at these moments, it is these moments when Theresa is able to put Rebecca and Ivy in their place that my mom would just be like, I'm not a Theresa. And she would just, it was like when you see somebody score a touchdown, my mom would just get so freaking excited about Theresa being able to pull rank up on these ladies.
I love it. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch. So this is the point. When Sam and Luis show up to the mansion to conduct their quote investigation, they hear the commotion from outside and they run in just in time to hear Theresa exclaim, "My baby will get everything from the Cranes because it is a Crane. It's Julian Crane's baby." And Luis is like, "What?" He doesn't, I don't think he likes what he's hearing, but Theresa explains to him that, she couldn't go through with the abortion. So I think he also has he probably has some mixed feelings, I guess. I would. Who wouldn't?
Yeah. And they're overhearing these things, and it makes me laugh because, of course, they give Rebecca all of the racist stuff to say. Go back to the barrio where you belong. We're going to crush you like a cockroach that you are, and you're going to get nada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to hear because it was in the next room. They're all three talking over each other. Oh, but I rewound it because I needed to hear what Rebecca said.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had her screaming at the top of her lungs the most ridiculous,
the most racist things they could come up with.
Racist things they could think of, yeah, that they could still say on TV.
This was another one too. At one point, she's Theresa. Teresa's like that pink bunny. She just keeps on lying and lying and lying.
Back in the day when we used to have the Energizer Bunny, do they still do those commercials with the bunny that just keeps going and going
I
and
do think
going?
he's still a mascot, right?
I think so.
Now I have to look it up.
I don't watch commercials very much anymore because I stream everything. Okay, so Ivy at one point is like, "We should just call Alistair. He'll take care of Theresa." Ooh, it was murderous. She should be suspect number one. Right? How quick she is to say we should just get rid of Theresa is crazy. So they're going back and forth until Sam finally stops everybody and is like, "Listen up, you ladies. Stop fighting. We're here to investigate Julian's murder," right? And then they all just kind of turn on each other. The ladies start to say, first Theresa and Pilar are against Ivy and Rebecca, and then Rebecca turns on Ivy too, right? Because she's gonna save her skin, and ultimately she and Ivy are enemies, right? Ivy, I don't think Ivy has any allies, real allies. Not a single one. I think Pilar was her last one, and she's fucked that up. I don't think she has any left. People who are on her side and are gonna keep her secrets. I don't think there's a single one left. So anyway, Pilar and Theresa are like, "You should be talking to Ivy and Rebecca. They were both so angry with Julian." And Ivy and Rebecca are like, "You should be talking to them. They were so angry. Everybody was, but everybody was angry with Julian, right?" So there's no.
I wrote down a lot of these accusations. I wrote down the top ones that stayed with me.
Go for it.
So when Luis and Sam come in, they reveal that Theresa is still with child. To which Rebecca says, "That father could be any man from here to Bermuda."
And Ivy's like, "Mm-hmm."
Yeah, it's just so funny to see the power dynamic changing because no matter how much Rebecca and Ivy want to work together, they still absolutely hate and loathe each other. So it's just funny to watch that. Ivy at some point's like, "Why don't we just call Alistair? He knows everything. He should be able to tell us something. Who the true Mrs. Crane is going to be." At one point, it just kind of gets quiet, and Rebecca just goes, "Slut," to Theresa responding, "Bitch." It was just excellent deliveries by both of the actresses. Theresa accuses both of them and says Rebecca probably pushed the wheelchair and Ivy pulled the trigger. And we just get all these clues, and I cannot tell you, I know it's juvenile, but it's making me laugh throughout the week. The amount of times that they reference people smelling like fish, I couldn't stop laughing. It just would come out of the weirdest times. It was so bizarre, so weird.
Oh, when Sam and Luis walk in, all of the women are like, "Something doesn't smell good," and so we the cannery right before they came over.
Yeah, they smelled like fish. Everybody smells like fish in this town now. So let's talk about Julian's murder investigation. Let's pick up where these guys were before they got to the mansion, okay? So, because it was fun, Luis and Sam are discussing this case, right? And they've got nothing. They're like, we need more physical evidence to prove that Julian was murdered. We don't, because Sam does not want to open a murder investigation, like, at all. He really wants to just chalk it up to Julian is a missing person. He's like, this jacket proves nothing, because remember, Tabitha brought him the tattered jacket with the bullet hole in it. But he's like, this doesn't prove anything, you know. And so, of course, he says we need more physical evidence. And Tabitha enters stage right. Tabitha comes in, or stage left. Is it stage right? Stage left? It's stage right. She enters stage right. And she says, I've got some physical evidence for you. And she gives Sam Julian's ring. And they do confirm that it is in fact Julian's ring by calling like a jeweler or something. Who fucking cares? They confirm it. And so, because now we have a jacket and a ring, but somehow the jacket was not enough. But the ring, now it's a murder investigation. I don't know. She says, she tells them she found it in a can of tuna. So
That was about to say.
I guess that's
found
the assumption.
ring in the tuna.
They found the ring in the tuna. I guess because the ring was in a can of tuna, they're assuming that like Julian's body parts got chopped up in the can of tuna. But what
they shut that fucking place.
Yes, right. It's disgusting. And also, wouldn't the can of tuna itself be the evidence, right? Wouldn't there be DNA evidence of Julian in the can? Wouldn't that be where you start? Not the ring, right? Yeah. Like, okay, the ring's here. Maybe his fingers are here too.
Please tell me they shut the cannery down, please.
They did for a day, I believe, because Sam told them they had to, and that he would take responsibility with old man Alistair. Yeah. So that it is shut down. I hope they cleaned everything. Like,
and again, if anybody's a stickler for things, just recognize, yes, at some point Sam does ask Tabitha, like, how did you end up with this? There's no way you should have had this. And Tabitha thinks on her feet and is like, oh yeah, well, part of my tour was some worker gave me some free tuna, and that's what I got. So
Sam is. Go ahead, Karen.
A little suspicious of Tabitha when she is coming in multiple times with evidence for this investigation.
I'm so happy you said that, because I wrote that down so many times where I'm like, how is nobody like all these lists of suspects and on the chalkboard and everything, but Tabitha's not one. Tabitha keeps giving you so much information she probably should not be privy to.
Yeah, how is Tabitha
on a tour of the cannery at the night Julian got shot? Jesus Christ, Sam.
Yeah. Also, yeah, Julian was the one that was supposed to give it.
The alibi is she was with Timmy. I think I don't understand that. They brushed over it really quick. Oh, she has an alibi. What?
Yeah, well, and they didn't actually give us the alibi. They didn't actually give us the alibi. She just she doesn't panic really, but she's like, you don't think I did this? I have an alibi. You know, I have an alibi.
At that point during the week when they did that, I was so happy because I was like, okay, Sam's not a complete moron. Like, he finally asked Tabitha, like, what do you know about this? So then Tabitha says, when she says that Timmy's her alibi. I was with Timmy.
But I agree with you, Karen, 100%. I actually, when you said it, it was like the next thing I was about to say, which is, how the hell is Tabitha not a suspect? How is she not a suspect? She's got all the evidence.
Again, I thank you for saying that. I wanted to just say that at some point we do get him listing out all the suspects. And who's the first one that they write on the chalkboard? TC.
Which, fair enough. Actually, TC is I think TC's the only person we've seen. That's not true. We've seen other people attack Julian, but TC is the person who has attacked Julian the most, and TC is the person who has often said, I will kill Julian Crane, like a bunch of times, and he has tried to murder him at least three different times now. It might be four. I'm trying to remember. I know there's three I can absolutely remember. There may even be a fourth time because it just happens so often. He really, truly has been trying to murder him, right? Not just punch him in the face. It's like strangulation. You're going to die tonight, Crane. And people have to pull him off. So yeah, TC is 100% number one on the suspect list, as he should be, if you ask me. But yeah, let's run down this list. Oh my gosh, they have this giant chalkboard where anybody could see. I don't know, if you're doing a murder investigation, I feel like those things, your evidence and all of that kind of stuff, should be kind of in the back where like the general public who can just walk in and out wouldn't be able to see what is going on
Yeah.
with your investigation, right? But they
Yeah.
don't care because they're terrible and they're bad at their jobs. TC is first on the list. Then Eve, I think, is the next one name they put on the list. No, Ethan. Ethan's the next suspect, followed by Theresa. Then, which upsets Luis. Luis is like, Theresa would never kill anybody. And he's like, listen, I already had to put my own son on the list. So, nobody's exempt. And they add Eve. And then then Sam looks at Luis and says, is there anyone else that you can think of that we should add to this list? And Luis, for whatever reason, I don't know. Actually, yes, I do. Now that I'm thinking about it, I do know. Luis thinks of his brother, Antonio, who I guess they had a conversation in the woods about Julian, and Antonio wanted to kill Julian. I don't even remember that. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember it.
Yeah,
I remember them being in the woods, but I don't remember Antonio telling Luis, like, yeah, I'm going to kill Julian.
Oh, I don't know if I remember that specifically.
I don't know. But whatever. He had that. So he thinks to Antonio instead of himself, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then Sam's like, do you have any information about the disappearance of Julian Crane? Like, basically questioning Luis, because Luis is like, well, you might as well, I might as well add my own name. I think he does write his own name on the board. So then they go through the formality of Sam questioning him with exactly one question.
Did you do it?
Which is, do you have any information about his disappearance? And he says, you know what? Don't tell me, because if you do have any information, I suggest you get yourself a lawyer. Lawyer up, buddy. So I mean, that's nice enough from Sam.
So now, would Ethan take Sam's letter of recommendation if Luis needed a lawyer and he suggested Ethan?
Everybody in this town needs a lawyer. Oh my God. Everybody in this town needs a lawyer right now.
Ethan could be making bank, even though he's also an accused. He's also
he can represent himself.
Everyone in this town is accused.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can make bank. Everybody needs a lawyer, right? So anyway, meanwhile, TC is like talking about Julian having it coming for years. We start seeing like just little things around town of different people saying like, if they had killed Julian, why they would have killed Julian, right? Like, we just see a bunch of that. It's a recap for anybody who doesn't remember who did what and why. Grace is at their house. Ugh. I'm sorry, y'all. This is where Grace like drains me. Like, every time she opens her mouth, I'm just like, ugh, Grace.
Yeah, she's so convinced that TC or Eve did it. Where I'm like, wouldn't you be thinking that maybe Ivy could have done it? You already know she's a lot of the reason why you've had so many problems. Like, there's so many other people you could accuse, but because of those pictures, she is.
Yeah, and she's like, well, maybe it's like Father Lonigan said, evil has come to Harmony, and somehow evil is influencing people who wouldn't normally do things like this. And like, kind of like doing the, side eye to Eve or TC. Yeah, and whatever. She goes to the police station. Let's just skip ahead. She goes to the police station, and she sees that giant board of suspects. And somehow, even though she herself suspects TC and Eve, is shocked to see TC and Eve on the fucking board. I don't know. She's so annoying. And then as she's leaving, she like drops her purse, and those pictures of like TC glaring at Julian fall out of her purse as if it's evidence. Everybody's taking these pictures as if they're evidence. Like, you can ask anybody in this town if they hate Julian. You don't need a picture of like photographic evidence of them glaring at him. They glare at him all the time. They hate him. So anyway, the picture somehow makes Sam even more suspicious of TC, I guess. I don't know. Eve goes to confession. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Whatever. I don't care. TC says something about telling his dad, "Pop, we finally got our revenge." Who cares? They didn't kill him. Spoiler alert, it was neither TC nor Eve.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about when Sam and Luis go to the mansion. So we already talked about they go to the mansion, they break up the ladies who are in the middle of their fight and their argument, they're going back and forth. Theresa at one point, okay, one of the things, and maybe you did already say this, Eric, I can't remember, but one of the things that Theresa says when she's accusing Rebecca and Ivy, she says both of them did it. Rebecca pushed the wheelchair and Ivy pulled the trigger.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was so good.
I don't know. I just love it. And she says, "I'd bet my late husband's fortune that one of them killed Julian." And then they just all start turning and accusing each other. Sam stops all the fighting and he says, "You all are going to have to answer some questions right now." And he asks them about their whereabouts. Nobody answers any questions. Nobody says where they were. And they again accuse each other of smelling like fish guts. I think Theresa says a maid said that Ivy had tracked fish guts into the elevator. I mean,
and Rebecca had a dress that smelled like fish when it went to the cleaners.
Yeah. And so they just all accuse each other of killing Julian. Sam stops all the fighting. He says, "You know what? I'm going to separate you all out. Ivy and Rebecca, Luis is going to interview you, Pilar and Theresa, I'll interview the two of you." And Ivy and Rebecca do not like this. They're like, "No."
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Ivy says, okay, she points out, well, Luis is going to set up me and Rebecca if he questions me.
Yeah.
Fair. And then they're like, okay, well, Sam will question Ivy and Rebecca. Luis will question Theresa and Pilar. Again, Ivy jumps in and she says, he's their family member. He'll be biased. At this point, look, Ivy should have been the one in the family to go to law school.
Right.
Sam should have run off to Boston years ago. She could have raised Ethan, taken evening classes at law school, because she is the only one who is picking up on this stuff. Honestly, the minute the police came in the house, we need to question you. Instead of pointing their fingers at each other, they should have shut their damn mouths. Everyone, shut your damn mouth. I need a lawyer. I need a lawyer. Everyone needs a lawyer. I've got 15 missed calls on my phone right now from Ivy and Rebecca, Theresa, Pilar, Steve, TC. Okay.
They're like, "Karen, we need you. We need a lawyer." Yes, everybody needs a lawyer. I agree with you wholeheartedly. They all should have shut up. They instead decided to try and incriminate one another. And yes, it is an obvious conflict of interest for Luis, who is a suspect.
Yeah, that's
a suspect, so should not even be working on this case.
Right.
This is so unethical. All of it is so unethical. Because then what's going to happen in turn is that Sam's like, "All right, I guess you're right. Okay, Luis, you go interview your mom and your sister."
And it goes exactly as you would expect it to go, and I loved it. I was like, because listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Y'all know ethically, I'm like, the police suck. In Harmony, these police officers in Harmony, they're terrible. They suck. Defund them. Period. But from a human standpoint, family standpoint, if my boss, the chief of police, has no problem with me being on this case, and I have to interview my sister and my mother, yeah, I'm gonna tell them exactly what Luis told
Luis
them.
was so good in this to them.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this brotherly son thing where he was like, "Y'all shut the fuck up."
Yes. So let's talk about it. Go ahead, Karen.
Made some comment about this is a close-knit community. This can't be helped, that people who are family members are questioning each other, that sort of thing. No. That's not the way it works, Sam. Then you call in police from another jurisdiction to handle the investigation if you don't have the resources for it.
Right.
And I'm so happy that you said that because his justification was, well, Ivy, I'm gonna have to talk to Ethan at some point because he's a suspect as well. As if it justified Luis talking to Theresa and Pilar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and he's talking to Ivy too.
His former lover,
Yeah,
yeah,
the mother of his
well, I
child.
had to bring that up.
yeah.
I mean,
There's so many conflicts of interest. There's so many. And
Because then,
so
honestly, they should just blame it on Rebecca and call it a day. Because then, yeah, she's the only one who doesn't have anybody in the system working for her.
you make a good point. You make a great point. Okay, so let's talk about these investigations. So let's start with Luis with Pilar and Theresa. He like halfway questions them, right? He says, he says to them, he says, "So just tell me you went home last night and that you didn't chase Julian."
Yeah, and they,
no,
yeah. Go ahead.
no, do not say that. Oh my God, this shit made me so mad. I told Eric and Latara before we started this podcast, I got so heated. I got so heated watching this.
Yeah.
Telling them, say you didn't have guns. Don't uh, don't give them any reason to suspect you. Say you just went home and went to sleep last night. I know neither one of you killed Julian. You couldn't do that.
Yeah. Talk about a miscarriage of justice, okay? He tells them, first of all, he said he does not ask them questions. He gives them statements, right? He's like, "I need you to tell me that you just went home last night and that you didn't chase Julian." And then they, of course, and what bothered me about this is, honestly, if I'm Theresa, if I'm Pilar, I'm going to be like, "Okay, I went home." Like if you did kill somebody, right? Or even if you're suspected of killing somebody, be like, "Okay, yeah, I went home." And the police is on your side, obviously. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I went home, but they do not do that. They're like, "No, I did. I wanted to kill Julian." And he's like, "Oh, please, God, I didn't hear that. You didn't tell me that you wanted to kill Julian. Do not say that to anybody." He's like, "Well, I already know the answer to this question, but did you either of you have a gun last night?" They don't even say anything. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. Where the fuck did you get guns?" And they don't say anything. He's like, "Wait, I didn't ask you that question. Don't answer that question. I don't want to know the answer. And I didn't ask you that." Like he is doing, I mean, as a brother, as a son, he's doing a wonderful job. As a cop, he's doing a horrific job. I loved it. Oh, I loved it, y'all. I was cracking up because Luis. This is stressing Luis out too because he sincerely went in thinking there's no way that either my mom or my sister did this, right? Like he sincerely doesn't believe that they are guilty of this. So he thought this is going to be an easy one, right? I'm going to go in here. No way they had a gun. They didn't chase Julian. Like I was the one out doing that. He knows what he was doing. He just didn't know that they were doing the same thing he was. So yeah.
And if I was a defense attorney for anyone in Harmony and I found out about this investigation, I would be trying to get my whole case or my client's whole case
thrown out the window.
There's okay, so I looked it up. There's a Massachusetts law, and in layman terms, it says public employees should consider whether their relationships and affiliations could prevent them from acting fairly and objectively when they perform their duties.
Well,
and there's
Luis. Might I remind you, Karen, that Luis is the law. So if he doesn't like it, he's not going to adhere to it. It's not his law. This is Luis's law.
There's this rule of evidence that says if the police don't follow certain procedures in their investigations, the evidence isn't admissible in court. And a defendant can argue that the deficiencies in the investigation created reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt.
Yeah.
No one is going to be convicted of this murder because these police are so bad.
Mm-hmm. And yet we do get our conviction, don't we? But we'll save that for later. We'll save that for later. Just in case people don't know who done it, quote, who done it. It's not a real who done it. But anyway, Luis, he just tells them, don't tell me anything. Please don't tell. He says, don't tell me anything else, please. And he gets up and he like walks away. And they like double down. They're like, no, we all wanted to kill him. Not, it wasn't just us though. It was like them, Ivy, Pilar. I'm sorry, not Pilar. Ivy, Rebecca, Ethan. Like, oh, somebody says Ethan's name, and Teresa's like, Ethan didn't do it. Ethan would never do it. And that's when Luis is like, how do you know Ethan didn't do it unless you did it? And then he's like, wait a minute, don't fucking tell me.
So much of that. So much.
It's just
Don't
so
tell them
good.
anything. They should have, everyone should have just followed that advice. Don't tell the police anything. Shut your damn mouth. Call your lawyer. We'll talk to you later. Honestly, the police shouldn't have even gone to the mansion. They should have called those people to the station to question them there.
Yeah.
And they should have gotten their Miranda rights.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's absolute. Yeah.
You listen, that's why we brought on the legal today. The legal. And I'm glad this is a good week for you to be on. You chose a good
That's
week.
why I wanted to be on. I had to come on here and rant about this shit because this is insane.
It's absurd. So yeah, he tells them not to incriminate themselves for no reason. Pilar then randomly brings up Antonio. She's like, well, we know one person who couldn't possibly have done it. Antonio. Girl, why was that on your mind? He couldn't have possibly have known it. And whatever. This sham of an investigation continues until Luis, and this we're gonna have to, I'm gonna start this and then we're gonna go over to Ivy and what's going on with Rebecca and everything, because this portion of it all goes into Sheridan and Luis, like we go into the Shui stuff. But I do want to talk about this, where Luis goes on and on about like all the reasons that he hates the Cranes. And at one point he's like, you'd have to be a masochist to go out with a Crane, to date a Crane. And Teresa's like, but what about Sheridan? Sheridan wasn't like that. And at one point, Luis gets so upset, he just like knocks Sheridan's picture off of the mantle. This guy's breaking. Let's be clear. Yeah. He's breaking. He's gone through too much, and he didn't get to take any time off, and he has not dealt with his grief. And on top of that, the angel bitch and the magic and shit is fucking with his mind, right? Like, everybody thinks he's crazy because he keeps seeing Sheridan, but he really does keep seeing Sheridan. Like, she really is alive, and he is really having these feelings because he is connected to Sheridan. But anyway, he knocks her picture off, and then he immediately picks it up and like apologizes to it, and he's like crying. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, Sheridan, you were nothing like your father, your brother. It's like, yo, he's going through something. So just keep that in mind for when we go to Sheridan and Luis stuff. So let's talk about Sam, Rebecca, Ivy in the library. So Sam sends Rebecca and Ivy to the library so that he can what do you call it? Interrogate. Question, interrogate them separately, right? So he sends Ivy into the library first, and or Rebecca. He sends Rebecca into the library first. He's gonna question her. They're in there talking. They don't say much. He asks her if she had a gun. She sidesteps the question, right? She doesn't explicitly say, no, I didn't have a gun. She says, why would I have a gun? Right? But that is the only question he gets to ask her, right? Yep. Before Ivy, she is like trying to get some pills, open a bottle of pills, and she drops them. and it's not funny. What happens isn't funny. It's just that this happened so many times this week that it made it funny to me. She's like trying to open some pills. She drops the pills, and then she falls out of her wheelchair. I'm sorry, it's not funny.
I understand why, because it happened like 2 or 3 times this week.
Yeah, she falls out of her wheelchair and passes out. Like, she falls down and then she passes out. They hear the commotion. Sam is very concerned. He goes, he scoops her up in his big, giant, muscly arms, takes her over to the couch and lays her down. He's like, oh my God, are you okay? He sends Rebecca off to get a heating pad for her pain. He's like, a heating pad will help my love. And, because it's clear that he loves Ivy. Jesus. If it wasn't clear before to y'all. If you see these scenes, it's so obvious. Like he
Yeah.
has crossed a boundary to me, in my
The
opinion.
scooping up of her, I mean, I know that he needs to, but to me that's like chivalrous. It's very
Yeah, and it was like
romantic.
it was the way he picked her
Yeah.
up and rushed her to the couch. And then once he got her down was like holding her,
Yeah.
right? Like he didn't have to do that. That was
He
extra.
he sits by her on the couch and he keeps moving closer and closer to her. He puts his arm around her. I don't remember if this happens then or later, but he's like kissing the her temple or the top of her head or something like that. That might be later. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, listen, it doesn't matter when it happened because it does happen. And and it all happens and like I just said she falls out of her wheelchair a couple of times, and so both times he is very tender and caring to her, right? So whichever time it happened, and it's still a boundary that has been crossed. And so he comforts her. She's up. She starts talking about her situation, how she's like, woe is me. My life is terrible. I'm stuck in this chair. Yada yada yada. Right. And Sam's like, you know what? We can continue the investigation some other time. Right now, like it's important that you get your rest. And then he's about to leave, and Ivy's like, well, before you leave, I have something that I want to talk to you about. It's about Ethan. But then she doesn't. She just tells him that she's glad that has been there for Ethan. I mean, I
Well,
guess it was just a ploy to continue talking to him.
yeah, and I just want to point out Rebecca just got away from all of this.
Mhm.
Like because of this distraction, Rebecca answered that one question or sidestepped that one question, and then she just walked away. Like we
Yeah,
don't see Rebecca anymore this week.
yeah. She does listen at the door for a
Yeah,
while, and then she leaves. Yeah,
yeah.
smart girl, smart girl. Yeah, get the fuck out of there. Right?
I
Um,
think Ivy's point about bringing up Ethan is she's worried about him after his breakup, and she wants to make sure Sam will be there for him.
okay. Yeah, that makes
Well,
sense.
yes, and that there's so two things come out of that specifically. One is he makes it very clear that you are not going to be able to use Ethan to get to me. So I'm just letting you know that. That's one thing. And she's like, no, that's not what it is, but it's definitely what it is. And then the other thing is that she brings up Theresa hurting Ethan. And Sam, I'm so happy he at least, that Theresa at least has Sam going, I don't know what you're talking about because I've known Theresa her whole life and she's not like this. So I don't know why you would think that it would make some sort of dent into Ivy's mind about Theresa because the man that she loves, the man that she knows is pure and good, is standing up for Theresa, but it doesn't because she has made her the scapegoat and she won't accept anything else.
Yeah, but to be fair, Sam doesn't even know how evil his own daughter is. Right? Like he doesn't even know how fucked up his own daughter Kay is, right? So, he's not the greatest
And
judge.
Ivy points out some stuff. She's like, Sam, Teresa's pregnant with Julian's baby. And then Sam says, well, he took advantage of her. And then Ivy sort of says, well, look, I don't want to argue with you. I just want to know Ethan has your support. Sam and Ivy are literally going to have this disagreement about Theresa until the last day of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she hates Theresa, and he did grow up. I mean, she did grow up. I'm sorry, he did watch her grow up, so he knows her. He knows her family, and honestly, he likes Luis and Pilar and the whole family, right? And he dislikes the Cranes, right?
Yeah.
And he knows how horrible Julian is. It
Yeah.
makes more sense to be on Theresa's side than to be on Julian or Ivy's side, especially considering what we've seen Ivy doing too. Like we've seen how he has seen most importantly, Sam has seen how manipulative and scheming Ivy has been trying to get him back, right? So he knows that he has to take what she says with a grain of salt. You know,
Yeah.
he does. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so continue. What else happens?
I
Tell
think
me
that's
about
pretty much it there. All I'm going to say is that Ivy falls again for the pills. Like, and there's a lot of pill conversation about like, are you taking how much you're supposed to be taking? And it's becoming very clear that Ivy is self-medicating, and she needs to be careful because she's taking too many of these things,
Yeah,
and
I
she keeps
want.
falling out of her wheelchair to get them.
Yeah.
And again, I know why because it happened like 3 times this week. So, and it's like you all couldn't come up with something else. Like it just kept being about how she dropped. Damn it, she dropped the pills
and
again,
and
and she's got to reach for them, and then she falls.
and so I'm glad you brought that up because about the pills, because I did wonder as I was watching this, are they trying to like start a storyline where Ivy is like dependent on pills? Because I don't remember that.
I've
It
seen a little ahead. Oh, excuse me. I've seen a little ahead, and so I do think Ivy's gonna get into those pills just a little bit, but nowhere near like Jesse Spano, like from Saved by the Bell.
Oh, I was like Jesse Spano. Okay. Oh, wait, when she said, "I'm so excited, I'm
Yeah.
so excited." Yeah, that
I
makes sense.
remember this specific group of episodes, and then I don't really remember a lot about the pills after that. But
Yeah.
it feels like they're trying to start something and they're trying to say she's addicted to them.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Which Eve did prescribe them to her.
But
Doctor Death herself did prescribe the pills.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't spend. Oh, go ahead.
Ivy got a second bottle of pills from another doctor. That's what they figure out because Eve comes over later and Eve's like, I didn't give you these, Ivy.
Oh, okay. All right. So they are doing a thing with the pills. And it makes sense that Eve would be the one to catch it because we all know that Eve had a problem in her youth with like drugs and stuff. So, okay. I imagine that's going to be something to kind of sort of build a somewhat of a bond between Ivy and Eve. It would make sense if they use that anyway. So, okay, so we're good on this. We're gonna ready to move on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So Ivy and Sam were talking about Ethan, and I forget exactly how it leads into this, but Ivy is talking about how much Ethan means to her and says something like, he's my only source of joy and I would kill for him.
Mm.
Sam is like, what did you say? He's like, his little cop instinct, his small little cop radar that he possesses is perking up at that, and he's like, okay, what do you mean by that? Because I know you're in pain. I don't want to keep talking to you about the investigation when you're in pain. That's not right. But at the same time, I can't ignore what you're saying. Ivy says, it's just a figure of speech. I didn't really mean it literally. I just wanted to emphasize how much Ethan means to me. And I can sort of buy that. I can sort of buy her explanation
Oh
here,
yeah,
I guess.
I get it. I mean,
And
they wrote it. And I'm glad you brought that up because I did write that down and I didn't say it, but yeah, I get him buying it. First of all, he's an idiot. But second of all, yeah, how many parents haven't said like I would kill for my kid, right? You know, it is
It's
a
a
figure
figure
of
of
speech.
speech.
It is a figure of speech. So yeah. All
and
right.
Sam takes out, when Ivy says that, he pulls something out, which I assume is a notebook,
Oh, and he wrote it down.
a little notebook, and sits it down like he's going to
His
start
Blues
taking.
Clues. He's doing his Blues Clues.
Do.
He's got his handy dandy
He's
notebook.
he starts drawing a wheelchair.
And then he takes out that notebook, and then, but I don't think he ever writes anything down. And then he's like, look, Ivy, I need to go. I forget, but he's probably saying, I need to go find Grace. Because Grace is Grace and she's needy, and I can't leave without her thinking I'm with you and having a premonition that I'm with you. Anyway, he leaves, then he comes back to get whatever he left. I think, and at that point, she has tried to take another pill, dropped it again, fallen out of her wheelchair. I can't figure out if she hit her head on either of these times. I was trying to tell, but I couldn't tell from what I was watching if she hit her head.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
couldn't
I
tell
think she
either.
just fainted. I don't think she
I
did.
think it's the
Yeah.
pain. I think
Yeah.
because
Yes.
they do make a clear point to show us that Ivy
She's
is in a
hurting.
lot of
Yeah.
pain. And I think the falling out of the chair causes like such intense pain that she passes out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, he comes back and she's super in a lot of pain, and he like comforts her, and that's like where we ended this week, right?
He sits down on the floor with her and is like cradling her in his arms. And it's sad, honestly, because you can tell how concerned he is about her. And
Yeah.
he has feelings there that he does not want to admit. And that reminds me of Latara. I wanted to bring something up because on one of the podcasts recently, you had talked about him. You said either he's choosing Grace, and Grace is, you said either the safe choice or the easy choice. I don't remember which word.
I eat the both work, the
Yeah,
safe and easy choice.
but you never said she's the right choice.
I don't.
And
Cause I can't make that. You know, I can't say that for him. You know what I mean?
and and the way I see it, maybe Sam would be happier making the harder choice and being with Ivy. I think he's not choosing her for several reasons. I think he's hurt that she left him all those years ago. I think he's not sure he can trust her after the stuff with Ethan and her leaving him to marry Julian. And he's not sure they're going to be compatible in day-to-day life.
They've had some major betrayals.
Yeah.
Betrayals. And that's tough to get over, right? And so I maintain that a person can be in love with multiple people at once, and the person that they choose, it's important. The choice that you make on a daily basis is very important. And I do believe that he loves Grace. I do believe that Grace is an easier choice to make. I do think, and like I said, Sam thinks of himself, even though he's such a horrible, crooked cop, he doesn't think of himself as one. He thinks of himself as a noble guy, right? This stand-up guy, this noble guy who believes in marriage and the sanctity of marriage, and like that is center and integral to his personality, his personhood, who he is. And I think it causes a lot of cognitive dissonance for him to even consider being in love with both of these women at the same time, right? Because in his mind, that's wrong. Even though I don't agree that it's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, Ivy and Sam, we love to see them together because they just look so good together. I mean, I love to see them together. They just look so good together. And it's just so interesting to have like this goody guy with this bad girl, right? Like she's not great.
Well, just to chime in on this conversation, if I'm remembering Hidden Passions correctly, I do believe Sam has some classist issues as well in all of this that started a lot of the riff. Like, how can I ever be with her if we're from two different worlds? And she definitely treats me like I'm from another world. That's one thing that's underlying. That's probably not in the top 3 reasons. The number 1 reason why he will not leave Grace is the kids. It's the family. It's the unit. I think that that's the huge thing about all of this. It's like, I have Noah, Kay, and Jessica to think about. Now I have Ethan, but that's a separate thing. I think it's always going to be about, I need to keep my family unit together, because that's the noble part of Sam in his head, that nobility equates having to stay in the family unit.
And I think Sam feels like he can be happy either way, and he's gonna.
Yeah.
And I think he feels like, yes, I could probably be happy with Ivy. I could probably make a life with Ivy, but it would be a lot harder. Like, I'm gonna have to deal with the real life ramifications of A, divorcing my wife, B, my children being very upset with me for divorcing my wife and going to be with Ivy.
Well, and
which is
that's
why in the end he just lets David take his wife, right? Like,
Well, it's also like that idea of nobility. To stay noble, I will give up the love of my life for my family.
right? He's like, I'm making this huge sacrifice. Yeah.
And again, he does love Grace. There has to be some love there,
Oh
but it
yeah,
is
he
not to
loves
the
Grace.
extreme of Ivy. Yeah.
I don't think they have the same passion. I think that's what it.
And
really
that's why the
boils
name of the
down
show
to.
is, yep.
Yeah.
These little scenes, they're like breadcrumbs for people like me who love Sam and Ivy because it keeps me hanging on through
Yeah.
rough times, and this is a rough time. I do want to follow up with both of you later, like later on, when we're to episodes towards the end of this year, because I've been rewatching some of them recently, and Sam's actions towards Ivy aren't as innocent at the
Oh,
end of.
at a certain point, Sam is basically cheating on his wife. Let's be
Yeah,
clear.
he
Like,
he. I watched something today where he lied to Grace's face about Ivy. So
yeah.
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 Anyway,
So
that's another conversation for later.
let's very quickly to finish up like the murder stuff, and then we're gonna go in. Well, the murder stuff is never finished. Okay, it
Yeah.
pops up in every little area. But I do want to talk about one thing that we didn't talk about with Theresa, where she tells Pilar that she should have listened to Luis at her quince, and so
Yeah.
we get a flashback of her at her quinceañera where Luis tells her like, you know, I want to give you some advice, and you need to always respect love and respect the values that our family have given to you. And he's like, and that includes drinking alcohol. You shouldn't drink alcohol before you're 21. And so Teresa's like, if I had only listened to Luis and followed his directions, then I never would have gotten drunk in Bermuda, and I would still have Ethan. I just want to talk about that, just
Yeah.
because it was just such a PSA for like, don't drink, kids.
So random.
And so
First of all, I want to applaud Lindsay Hartley for her pronunciation of the word quince. That was correct. I was very happy for her.
our Greek goddess who's playing
Yeah,
our
she's. But also, I appreciate she was in a beautiful looking, like typical quinceañera dress, and I was happy to see it, and to see that moment between the two of them. But it was just so weird to be like, "Don't drink. That's the devil's juice." Like it was so weird to kind of be like, I don't know, weird harmony PSAs, weird passions PSAs that you have highlighted over the course of these few episodes of like morality and
yeah.
passions being a after school special, which I don't remember it being like this, but I'm like, oh my god, that was so late 90s, early 2000s.
And I'm gonna say this, y'all can correct you, Eric. You can correct me if I'm wrong. My ex-boyfriend of 7 years, he was Mexican, right? These people drank so much. Like I loved going to like his family stuff, because not just the drinking, but it was just like warm. It was really, he had a big family, so it was just like really warm and fun. It was just like a really nice environment, but they also just like really knew how to let loose. There's always music, and there was tons of alcohol, and
So
a lot of Corona, right?
I just so with that, I'll just chime in. I literally just grabbed this from my desk because it's here. I went to one of my best friend's wedding recently. We've been friends since middle school. All of us have been friends since middle school. And no joke, this is right next to me. This is a shot glass that they gave us at the wedding that you could put around your neck. And then they went around with tequila, pouring little shots into it the whole night. And then people would take shots off their little necklaces. Shout out, Noel. Congratulations on your nuptials.
Congratulations, Noel.
But to confirm Latara's point, yes, that's a thing.
Yes, because we would go over to, one of his family members' houses at like, 1 p.m. and we would be leaving at 1 a.m. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. So just this idea of this, even though they haven't explicitly said that they are Mexican, they still haven't
Yeah.
said that. But like, I believe that they are a Mexican family. I don't know.
I do believe at some point, it takes forever, like you pointed out, but I do think that Paloma is in Mexico somewhere. Eventually, when we get Paloma to come in, she says that she was in Mexico. That's what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. And so I don't know if they take like the whole you shouldn't drink until you're 21 all that seriously. Right? But anyway, meanwhile, I want to talk about Ethan and Gwen, that they're out for like burgers and milkshakes, and then Ethan gets a phone call about Sheridan's clothes. This is going to lead us to the cottage, everybody. Hang in there. It's also chaotic. This is the point where things get extremely chaotic.
Yeah.
So Ethan gets a phone call about Sheridan's clothes that her lawyer, her attorney says that she wanted to have them auctioned off for charity. So he and Gwen go over to the cottage to like get a couple of boxes of Sheridan's clothes, okay? Um, so just remember that that happens. So let's talk about Sheridan and Luis. Let's talk about it all. Bermuda, our Bermuda group, they're headed back to Bermuda. Lord Jesus, Diana is asleep on the plane, and then she starts talking in her sleep, and then she just gets up and starts walking around the plane, and the things that she's saying are like, I did it. I took everything from him. He's dead. Whoa. The flight attendant is like, she's freaking me out. Can y'all
Yeah, that
calm
was
down?
so funny. The
And they
lady's like, I can't deal with this shit. Like,
they tell the flight attendant that she's like practicing for a role, that she's rehearsing
she's an
for a play.
actress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Myself in the perspective of other people on this plane, yeah, I would have been freaked the hell out. Like, what is this woman doing?
Yeah.
I really was hoping Sheridan would. Oh, go ahead.
Not that there were many people on the plane. That was one thing I wrote down. I said, this plane is not crowded and it's so quiet. I guess that's because I'm used to flying in 2024 on
Girl, I think it's
planes
because you
all
used to
the
flying
time.
on real planes.
Well,
What did you say?
I said, I think it's because you're used to flying on real planes and not set pieces.
well, I will say I was really hoping and praying that at some point Sheridan was just gonna go. I am telling you right now, that motherfucker back
Fucker back
there
there is
is
not
not real.
real.
Because that's pretty much what was happening. And that's why the flight attendant was like, this lady's freaking me out.
You are absolutely right. That's exactly what was that. Oh my god, that's so funny. If anybody who doesn't know the reference, there was a lady on a plane, it's a TikTok, and she just like was having, I don't know, psychosis, and she just is screaming, that motherfucker back there is not real. And everybody on the plane's like, what is she talking about?
I'm so glad how Eric says that. And Latar and I are both like, yeah, we got it. We know what you mean.
Hilarious.
Which is funny because a lot of the Shui stuff is gonna have a lot of motherfuckers who aren't real or are real throughout this whole week.
Mm-hmm. So they do finally get her back to her seat. Antonio's like, I'm gonna love her and protect her for the rest of her life. It's so crazy to me. It's so funny. Antonio and Miguel, like brother, right? Because this girl is crazy.
I am laughing because I thought Latari, you were gonna say, I'm gonna love her. Like you made it sound like she was gonna love the sanity back to her is what you're gonna do.
I'm gonna love her till she's sane. No, he after this like display of psychosis, he's like, wow, that's my lady right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna love her and protect her. What?
Gosh, it really is that family. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, they love their crazy ladies.
Yeah. So there's conversation between Liz and Doc about Liz getting back together with Brian. Doc's like, I mean, you really need to get in there at some point, Liz, because Diana's gonna eventually fall in love with Brian, and you're not gonna be able to get him back. I don't know why Doc is so invested.
Well, also, Doc's an asshole. Like I wrote that down. I've never seen him be this attentive to you, and he says that, and I'm like, okay. First of all, again, God bless the actor, but he's like, yeah, he was never this attentive with you, and he says it like, well, I'm trying to point out that if you don't do anything, you're gonna lose him. But they're not together. They're not together. Yeah.
She has lost. He's not found. He's lost.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why Doc is so invested in this. And I don't know why Liz won't look at him. I guess because she wants to get back together with Brian. But girl, why he broke? He's
Yeah.
bumming off of you. What do you want from him? He
Yeah.
can't even talk to his own family. What do you want from him?
Yeah.
What does he have that for you? What does he bring
Yeah.
to the table for you?
Yeah.
What, I don't know, but he's super invested in her. Doc is super invested in Liz and getting back together with Brian for some reason.
Yeah.
They don't explain it, and I don't think they will, because I don't think it's important. I think it's just a narrative device to let us know that Brian and Liz used to have a thing. And I've always thought it was like a situationship kind of thing, like it wasn't a clear relationship. But
Well,
later on, Liz does basically say, like, you were never like that when we were together. Oh,
well, yeah, they have a conversation about that, but I gotta tell you what I recall. I thought there was a significant age difference between the two of them, and now I'm looking at it and I'm going, what did I remember or misremember? Because now I'm like, oh, they really tried to make them a thing. I didn't remember them trying to make them a thing this thick, this much.
yeah.
So I guess I just misremembered because I don't remember them being a big thing the first watch around.
Yeah, their age difference. I mean, he's older than Luis, right? And
Yeah.
we think Luis is like what, 26, 27?
Yeah.
And if he's
So are
older
they
than
the
Luis,
same?
he's
I
probably
just didn't
in his
know that.
early 30s.
Yeah.
And Liz, I would think Liz was in her mid to late 30s,
Okay.
maybe early 40s.
Not that bad. Okay.
Right? So, yeah. There probably is an age gap, but it's probably somewhere between 5 and 7 years.
I
I
think
would think
he definitely had her as a sugar mama, and that's what it
she
was.
was
I mean,
taking care of
she
him.
still is, basically. Yeah.
Yes, she was taking care of him, and I don't know if we ever get into the particulars of what their relationship was. And to be frank, I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah, because Brian's an asshole also. I also don't remember him being this much of an asshole the first time around. But now, again, as we've aged and I'm watching back, it's really frustrating because at some point, Liz and Brian have a conversation. He was like, what we had was all right, but it was not special. We were so young. Like, it was just a fling. He basically tries to make it sound like it was a fling when I think we all know full well that it was, like you said, the situationship is perfect word.
Yeah, he used her. I'm sure of it. I'm certain of it. He used her. He does say at one point, like, well, we were in different places emotionally back then, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know if it was that he had just gotten to the island. I mean, I don't know. And we don't know the timeline on when he left Harmony,
Yeah.
when he made it to the island, how old he
Yeah.
was, how long it had been since he left Harmony. Like, we don't know
Exactly.
a lot of information about this, and we
Yeah.
never get any of that information. So it's really pointless to even dwell on it or
Yeah.
even talk about it. I hate that I even ever have to bring it up. But I do because it's in the show. So anyway, Diana finally wakes up from daydreaming or sleepwalking, right? And she doesn't remember what she was doing. She doesn't remember that she was sleepwalking. She doesn't remember who she was talking about. They were like, yeah, you were talking about, like, you murdered somebody, maybe?
The
And
only
she's
thing
like,
she remembers is the smell of tuna.
yep. The only thing she remembers is the smell of tuna. And she at first she has that moment where she's like, huh, maybe I really killed somebody. And we're back to like episode 1 Sheridan, right? Like,
Murder.
am I a murderess? Am I a murderess? But very quickly she's like, no, I didn't kill anybody. How could I? And why could I? Why would I? Right? And so they get back to the island, and Liz and Antonio have a short conversation. It doesn't matter. Sheridan Diana goes to her room. What's his name? Antonio, Brian, whatever. They all have so many names now. Brian everybody goes to their rooms, right? And in the middle of the night, Diana wakes up and she goes, Brian, she said his name, right?
I don't think so.
I don't recall.
I thought I heard her say Brian. And so I was like, this doesn't make sense. I was very confused. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Maybe she didn't say Brian. She wakes up and it looks like she's awake. It doesn't look like she's like sleepwalking. It looks like she woke up and she like remembered something.
Yeah.
But then she makes her way to Brian's room. She goes inside and she goes, make love to me. Please make love to me. And he's more than willing to oblige.
Oh, he's so ready.
And I was confused because I was like, what is going on? And at first I thought it was a dream, but then we see Sheridan's perspective, and the person she sees in front of her is not Brian, but Luis. And
Mhm.
so she's dreaming of making love to Luis. That's like a common trend on this show where the women want to have sex with one person and they dream of a different person, right? Or are having sex with one person and dream of a different person. But anyway, Antonio does do like the honorable thing after he realizes what's happening, because she says to him, she says, "Make love to me like you used to," and that's how he realizes, oh wait a minute, she's not talking about me.
And man, does he deflate. He deflates so. Yep. Yeah. Boner killer. He just is like, fuck. This
he
is. I'm not going to.
he went flaccid very fast, right?
Yeah.
And so
He knows full well that she's sleepwalking, sleep talking.
and so I'm glad that they didn't let him go on, and like,
Nah.
that would
Yeah.
be too much. They're too far. So he just like holds her. He's like, "No, maybe we should just lay here and let me hold you." And then she starts like crying. Y'all, this is when things get chaotic. So if either of you would like to jump in,
Well,
please.
so I can help you with what's going on outside. Outside, because now I have made a realization is that Doc is the Ross of fucking St. Lisa's.
Yeah.
He's out there watching Aurora Borealis happening, because apparently the magic of the triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, is at its peak, and it can reach not just Bermuda but everywhere else, specifically Harmony.
I
And
wrote
so
down exactly what he said when
yeah,
so
go for it.
he's looking because I loved this line, and this guy delivered his line because he
He's
doesn't get
great.
much
God bless him.
he doesn't get
He
much to
doesn't get
say, and
nothing.
I was glad he was like, this is my moment. So Doc is like looking through a telescope, and Liz comes by, and he said they see like these crazy lights in the sky, and he says, "That's the power of the Bermuda Triangle. The powers are amplified and extending all over the world. The triangle's powers are so strong tonight that people all over the world will have their lives turned upside down. Strange and terrible things will occur." And he also says like it's affecting the underworld as well. I just love it.
Yeah.
I just love it. He says, and then Liz finds herself transported somewhere else. Okay, so this is happening while Diana's like crying, and we have to
Yeah.
talk about what's going on with Diana. But outside, this is what's happening. Um, Liz finds herself transported to somewhere else. I liked this moment because I was like, yes, we're finally gonna get a little something about Liz, right? And she's like in this weird, desolate forest, and she yells at someone, "You bastard!" And she says, "The only reason I agreed to meet you here is to tell you that I'm leaving. You got what you wanted. What you did was to me was unforgivable, and I will never forget." And then she gets snapped back into being on St. Lisa's, and she tells Doc, I was somewhere else just now. He's like, "Yeah, you were just yelling for no reason." And she was like, "I wasn't here. I was like transported somewhere else." And he says the triangle is going to dredge up all kinds of memories, good and bad. And yeah, so
It was helpful to see Liz get some sort of backstory, something.
yeah, I mean, we will delve into Liz, which is great,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've already said on this podcast once or twice that the Liz stuff is like, I don't agree with Liz.
Oh yeah.
Right? On
But it is funny because you root for her for a good long while, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh
you
yeah, we're not on your side.
at all. At all.
But
Then again, like I said, the first time I watched this, I did not think of Eve as a villain.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, every time I rewatch this, I'm like, I don't remember this, and now I have different feelings. So it keeps
Yeah.
happening every time on the rewatch.
Okay, so while all of that has happened with Doc and Liz outside, we have to talk about what's going on in Brian's room. Diana or Sheridan is like crying because she sees. What does she see? Did y'all get this? Did you understand? I did not fully understand what was going on. Like, she just seemed like she was just having an episode. Like, what did she see?
I felt like she was just kind of reliving something from the past. Like she was seeing Luis, but not kind of fully comprehending what was going on because we don't get that image until way later. I think she just was like in this like like in a, I think maybe she might have been dreaming of Luis and like is enacting it, but they don't really
Okay.
show us that.
Okay, here's what I think is happening. I think maybe. So what we didn't talk about is that Louise goes to the cottage to like reminisce about Sheridan after after he has his little breakdown and during his sham interrogation of his sister and his mother. He has that picture of Sheridan. He takes it with him to the cottage and he's in there just like thinking about her. So I think maybe she was seeing him in the cottage and the and because it was very clear that they were having like a cross dimensional connection,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And so she's like sobbing. Doc and Liz come in from outside and can hear her crying through the door. And so they go in and Brian explains to them that she's like sleepwalking again. And then Sheridan sees a candle because Luis lights a candle at the cottage. So, and then did the candle just become lit? Or did
Yes.
it get bigger?
Yeah, the
Nope.
candle in Bermuda lit up when Luis lit his candle in Harmony.
Yeah, her candle on St. Lisa's lit up, right?
Yeah.
And then when he blew out the candle went out, right? And the candle goes out and Doc and Antonio like are like arguing about the candle and what it means. Antonio's like, "No, it's not the Bermuda Triangle. It was just the breeze. I felt it." And while they're arguing, Diana just gets up and bolts out the door. She just goes running
Yeah,
barefoot.
sleep running. Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes running off and she goes out into the water. Like she goes like out to the beach. She manages to get out to the beach. How they didn't catch up with her. Like it's not like she had a head start, right? Like
Yeah.
she ran out and she was the main topic of conversation. It's not like you were all that distracted. You would think that they would just follow her very quickly and
Yeah.
grab her and make sure she stays in bed. But she manages to get away from them. So Sheridan must be fast as hell. She runs to the beach and like starts swimming out in the water. So this is important. Why? Because Luis back in Harmony at the Crane Mansion has decided to go for a swim.
And
because
again, who is he to just go jump in the pool at the Crane Mansion?
What do you mean?
Now,
Who is he? What do you mean? Who is he? He is the law.
not only that is he the law, his sister is now Mrs. Crane. So I guess he took that and was like, you know what? I've had a long Lopez Fitzgerald fucking day. I'm gonna go dip my toes in the pool. And even at some point he just goes, wow, Julian would just be freaking, I don't think he says rolling in his grave, but
Yeah.
he would just be freaking out to know that I'm running around in his pool.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give notice at my job tomorrow and become a police officer if it means I can go to someone's mansion and question them and then hop in the pool afterwards.
Right. Exactly.
The cottage makes total sense. Him going into the pool made no sense for me.
Well, and I didn't know they had an indoor pool, but they do. So we get this new set piece that I was very excited about, and it was nice.
It looks beautiful.
It's one of their nicer sets, honestly. He goes for a swim in the pool, and once he's in the pool, he's seeing those same lights that the people in Bermuda are seeing, right?
It looks like Aurora Borealis.
It does. But we're meant to believe that it's just like the power of the Bermuda Triangle, right? And so once he gets in the pool and he's seeing the lights, he realizes he like can see Sheridan. And so he like swims to Sheridan. Sheridan swims to him. They embrace. She goes, "It's you," and he's like, "It's you," and they kiss and they embrace and they're so happy to be together. And at one point, Luis, with his sharp legal mind, is like, "Where are we?" Because he's been transported to the ocean in Bermuda. He looks around. He says, "Where are we?" She says, "It doesn't matter." I beg to differ. I beg to differ. She says, "It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we're together again."
It's annoying because Luis is fully awake, and we are led to believe that Diana's asleep.
Yeah. Yes, that's exact. Yep.
So of course she wouldn't ask for his name, his address, his phone number. She's asleep and remembering Luis, but not his name.
Listen, my notes right here go crazy because it's just so hectic and crazy. I said Diana just starts swimming out in the ocean. Luis sees a vision of Sheridan in the pool. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Luis disappears after kissing Sheridan, and he gets transported to the water where Sheridan is, and they kiss and hug each other. Like, that's what happens though. And yeah, he asks her where they are, and she says, "Who cares?" And then they continue to like hug and embrace. Now, the Bermuda group is
I can't
looking.
wait for it.
The
Go for
Bermuda
it.
group is looking for Diana, right? And they see footprints headed to the water. And I feel like Doc said something about her like trying to kill herself.
I'm ready. I remember. Okay. So Brian's like, I gotta go. And then Liz is like, yeah, we gotta go help. And Doc basically tells Liz, like, no, let Diana die. Like, you'll be together. if she's dead, you're good, girl.
Yeah.
Wearing her
Yeah.
colors right now.
What'd you say, Karen?
I said Liz is showing her colors right now. Just let her die. Then you
Well,
can...
Liz doesn't say that.
Yeah, no.
Doc says it.
Yeah.
Wait, oh.
Yes, Doc
Oh,
was like,
God.
Doc's
I'm
basically,
confused.
yeah. Doc was basically like, yeah, Liz, what are you doing? Let Brian, like, don't, because she's like, I'm gonna help.
Yeah.
And Doc's like, no, why are you gonna help? That just means that they're gonna be together.
And I don't know, I'm not entirely sure how this was all so chaotic and stupid, because I was like, how can Liz help? In what way is she helpful to Brian out in the open ocean? I mean, I guess if she's a super strong swimmer, but are they both gonna carry Sheridan together? You know, like I don't know, but she seems super upset and worried. And I mean, we've seen Diana go out in the water one other time, and like Liz didn't go out there to help that time. I don't know what led her to do it this time, but yeah, she does. They do both swim out into the water to try and get Diana. What's his name? Brian is like, she's talking to someone. There's someone else here. So, and he can't make out the face of who it is. And but let me just say this. This was one of the best Doc lines this week. Once they are going out into the water, Doc's left on the shore, right? And he says, the triangle's powers are unfathomable tonight. Dimensions and time, there will be no barriers. Anything can happen with all levels of consciousness and creation, even the underworld. They'll all have access to one another. It's like, okay. All right. I like that they explained that. I do like that they explained that. And so we know what's going on. There's some cross-dimensional time and space bullshit.
I tell you, he's the Ross of St. Lisa's.
He's our
He just needs a little Palm Pilot. That's what he needs.
He needs his Palm Pilot with his stylus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So while this is happening in Bermuda, right? Like they're trying to save Diana. Diana's having her whole thing with Luis. Theresa is looking for Luis at the mansion, right? So she goes to the pool and she finds a robe and like some clothes, and she finds his wallet, and she's like, oh my God, I think Luis was swimming, but like I can't see because the lights won't come on in here. Like they think the fuse has been blown or something. She calls a maid to try and get it fixed, and the lights won't come on. So we're meant to believe it is so dark in this room that she can't see whether Luis is under the water or not, even though it wasn't that dark. But anyway, then Theresa notices she can kind of see Luis. He appears for a moment, and then she can also see him with Sheridan. They both appear for a moment, and then they disappear again. And so I was, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, I was very excited about this. But I should have known that Passions was gonna disappoint me and let me the fuck down. I should have known. I know better.
Passions is gonna passions.
So, Diana and Luis are trying to stay together. Hank shows up at the pool out of nowhere.
I wrote down, what the fuck is Hank doing at the Green Mansion? I was so flabbergasted. I'm like, what? I was like, this is too much. There's too much going on. They do talk about how Pilar was worried about Luis, and that's how he ended up there. It was a bullshit excuse, but Hank's there.
Yeah, so Hank's there. And so in the Bermuda Triangle, out in the ocean, Diana starts hearing Brian calling to her, Diana. And Luis starts to hear Theresa and Hank calling to him, right? Like, he's like, somebody's calling my name. Who is that? Somebody's calling my name. And Diana's like, ignore it. And he's looking at her like, yeah, you ignore it too. Like, we have to stay together. And they're holding on to each other, trying not to be pulled apart. Hanks grabs Luis's arm because Luis appears back in the pool, right? So he grabs Luis's arm. He catches onto him because he got into the pool to, like, save him, even though the water was like 4 feet high. And he grabs his arm. He's trying to pull on him. And then Luis disappears. But Hank's like, well, I can feel him, but I can't see him. What?
Can I just point out when Hank jumps in, he takes off his shirt, but he leaves on his pants and his shoes.
He is a Bennett, and that is a Bennett move.
Yep.
Take off your glistening shirt.
Yeah.
Take off your shirt, show your glistening muscles. That is a
Yeah.
Bennett move.
Yeah, the shirt goes first.
While we're rescuing people.
The shirt goes first. A Bennett mantra. So yeah, he's trying to pull on her onto Luis. Luis disappears. He can feel him, but he can't see him. Same thing is kind of happening in the water in Bermuda. And so they're like coming and going and coming and going. Eventually, Luis gets pulled away. Sheridan gets pulled away, right? Now, I want to talk specifically about what happens in Harmony because I found it more interesting than what happened in Bermuda. Basically, what I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all. What happens in Bermuda is that she doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
She pulls a Charity. She doesn't remember anything. She's like, I don't know. And then she's like, oh, I think I saw my lover. Okay, fine. Cool. Great. Nothing. We get nothing over there on Bermuda. But in Harmony, Hank does some bullshit that bothered me to my core. Okay. He tells, once he pulls Luis out of the water, he basically tells Luis, no, you didn't see Sheridan. Your mind's playing tricks on you. Theresa says to Luis, well, I actually did see you with Sheridan in it, and then you disappeared. So, but Hank is like, no. Both of you just really want that to have been Sheridan. Your minds are playing tricks on you. And then he's like, and the only way to explain why I was holding Luis but couldn't see him is because the reflection must have been in my eyes from the lights outside, and it's so dark in here. And he's like, but because there has to be a logical explanation. We have to think logically about this. You were dragged to hell. Anytime somebody in this show is like, oh, well, no, we have to think logically about this. There has to be a logical explanation. There's no way this could happen. Y'all all saw the Bennett house be dragged to fucking hell. You saw the demons. It drives me crazy. And every once in a while, somebody will bring it up. And then they'll just dismiss it entirely. And as I've said for a lot on this show, if I had seen that shit with mine own eyes, I would never shut the fuck up talking about it, right? I would never shut up talking about it. I'd just be like, yeah, I saw hell. I saw hell itself.
What was so exciting about all of this was that Theresa was there to corroborate that she saw Sheridan. And now, and again, of all the people, right? Not that I think anybody, because listen, Harmony is full of gaslighters and deniers. Harmony is full of people being like, nah, that didn't happen, even though they've seen fucking crows show up at people's doorsteps and, they've seen demons and shit. You're absolutely correct. But what upset me was that Theresa was at least going to be able to corroborate that she saw Sheridan. And if it's the believer of fate and the believer, at this point, Luis has talked to Sheridan on the phone. Luis has done all of this shit. Why can't we just believe that that's what happened? That was some weird shit. Anybody could say that was weird. I was pulling on you, but I couldn't see you.
Yeah, all three of them had this weird supernatural experience. And so they all can corroborate each other's stories. And yet Hank decides to say, you know what? No, we have to just think logically about this. Sheridan is dead. There's just no way. Sheridan is dead. There's just no way. It's but this is what we've been talking about, right? Again, hell, might I remind you, hell itself. But also the fact that Luis has been saying over and over, I just feel Sheridan's presence. I just feel her presence. And now he's really made contact with her. Really and truly made contact with her. it goes along with that, like, he prayed for a miracle and he got his miracle and he just has to figure it out, you know. But I just, Hank just drives me up a wall, considering he had the experience too. It would be different. It would be very different if he showed up after all of this happened and he was like, no, you guys, your minds are just playing tricks on you. But he was holding Luis and could not see him. He could
And
see him one moment and couldn't see him the next.
and I think he said something like he had a good grip on Luis, but then he kept not being able to feel his hand on Luis.
Yeah.
I don't remember his exact words, but it was something like that. Like, I had you, and then I didn't have a hold on you.
Yeah. And Luis is saying, you know, the water I was in, it was the ocean. It was salt water, right? Like, it was. Oh God, go back to the island. Go back to the island, Luis. But whatever. That's kind of where we leave it this week. There's some stuff with Theresa and Ethan, but it's not important. We'll pick it up next week. Honestly, it's really not important. Unless y'all really, really want to talk about it. Okay.
No.
Do y'all have anything to add on the Shawise front, though?
You know, I just want to point out that I must be a fickle viewer, because I love me some fucking magic on Passions. But when it's shit like this, I don't like it. I am okay with a demon looking all messed up and nasty and bad prosthetics and talking like this and being like, Tabitha, you're going to hell. And I'm like, this is cheesy. I'll give it to me every day. But when it's little Bermuda Triangle bullshit like this that does stuff like this, I don't like it.
I wouldn't mind it as much if they would lean into it a little more,
Yeah.
the same way they lean into, like, the hell and the magic and all of
Yeah.
that. They don't lean into it quite as much, because at least in our regular magic storyline, we have Timmy and Tabitha who validate for us that this is all real at all times, right? But in these other ones, we don't have anybody else kind of saying that, doing that. It's all speculation. And even though we as the viewer can see that it's real, right?
Yeah.
And Tabitha just makes the magic more fun. Tabitha and Timmy just make that more fun than this. And this is also frustrating because it is the Sheridan and Luis storyline where they just keep missing each other, and now it's just like, we're gonna go back to, like, oh, no, Sheridan's dead. You have to accept that Sheridan's dead, even though you literally just hugged and kissed her in the middle of the ocean. Like, crazy things happen in this show, in this town, right? So anyway, with that said, let's finish up. We're going to go to magic, y'all. Like I said, it's a long one today, so I hope y'all are enjoying. We even had to take a break. But we are raring to go, and there's not a whole lot of magic today, so I think we can finish up pretty quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Timmy. Timmy's out at the park, catches up with Miguel and Reese, who are out searching. They have flashlights. And I was like, they're searching for something. And they tell Timmy that they're looking for clues. They're doing their Blues Clues. They're Blues Could Do, You Can Too. They're looking for Blues Clues, just like Luis and that other one, Sam. And they're looking for clues as to what could have made Charity change. Timmy's struggling with what to do, right? Like, should he help Charity? Should he respect Tabitha's wishes? Then Miguel's like, I don't know why this made me laugh so much. I guess it's because Miguel's so stupid. He was like, yeah, you know what? I think I need to walk around and just let my mind wander, and maybe that'll help me figure out what has happened to Charity. It's like, your vapid mind. Your mind is already constantly wandering. You don't need what you need is to focus, Miguel. What you need is to focus on something. But no, he goes for a little walk to see if his vapid mind, his empty mind, can lead him to what has happened with Charity. Then the angel appears to Timmy, our grown angel woman.
Yeah, little angel adult.
And she does exactly what this bitch always does. She comes and she says some dumbass bullshit that doesn't make sense, and then she fucks the fuck off. She is so annoying. I am sick of this angel. I'm so sick of her. So she appears to Timmy, and she tells him that only he can help the real Charity. And he's like, again, he asks her, how, angel girl? How? She goes, you're a human now. Follow your conscience. Girl.
Hey, there's a nugget in there, though. There's a nugget, a Pinocchio reference. Jiminy Cricket says to Pinocchio, let your conscience be your guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was also not very helpful for Pinocchio. Look at how he turned out, right? Look at all the things that happened to Pinocchio. A lot of bad shit happened to him because Jiminy couldn't be very helpful, much like this stupid angel. And so Timmy's like, well, guess what? She tells him, let your conscience be your guide, basically. His conscience leads him to pray for Miguel to be led to charity. The angel's like, yeah, no, that's not what I meant. It's like, girl, just say it. Just say what it is.
As again, this show leans so much into Catholicism. I'm like, how is the angel gonna say that prayer's not helpful? And Timmy's like sincerely like praying that Miguel will figure this out, and Angel goes like, yeah, nah, you gotta go. Like, yeah, that's not it.
No, she reiterates to him that he and Charity have a special connection and that they are intertwined forever. Again, giving him no information other than because again, Timmy takes this to mean that they're gonna be a couple, and like, she just lets him believe that.
No, what she does, she was so mean. I will say this was mean, because Timmy's like, oh, are we gonna be together? Like, are we gonna be a couple? To which she's like, nah, I wouldn't get that far.
And don't get ahead of
yourself. She says, don't get ahead of yourself. Yeah.
That pissed me. That's so mean. Like, there's so many other ways to say that.
And then she says, don't get ahead of yourself. And then she tells him again, just let your conscience tell you what to do. And that's it. She's so unhelpful. She's so useless. I can't stand her.
Timmy is he's having a bad night because before the angel comes, he's there with Reese, and Reese is shining the flashlight on Timmy, and he's giving Timmy a hard time. He's like, I don't know, you look so much like Tabitha's doll. I can't get over the resemblance between you and the doll. And have you ever noticed anything strange happening at Tabitha's? Anything that might have been in an episode of Charmed or Bewitched?
Yeah. He interrogates Timmy about Tabitha being a witch, but Timmy, of course, is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Tabitha's already explained to you. Aunt Tabby already explained to you that she modeled her doll after me. So, like, get a grip and get a clue, nerd boy. Yeah. And meanwhile, Miguel's like out wandering around the forest as one does, and he says, oh, I realize why Charity's been acting so weird. I know, and I need to go find her and talk to her. So he rushes off. He tells Reese, and they run past Timmy. Reese explains to Timmy what's going on, so Timmy heads over to the Bennett place as well, right? So they're headed over to Charity. Kay is talking to her zombie, Charity. They're having a conversation, and she's like trying to get to know her zombie better, getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you. Like, it just was very The King and I, right? She's like, yeah. I just realized, we're always hanging out, but I don't know anything about you. Like, what are your likes? What are your dislikes? What are your goals in life? And
it's like girl talk. They're sitting there. She's brushing Zombie's hair. Zombie's playing on her phone.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, who was she texting?
I don't know.
One of the many boys she's been flirting with.
The guy she picked up at the youth center.
Mm-hmm. Zombie Charity's got game, honey. She has pulled several boys, and I'm sure they gave her phone numbers.
I just want to make it very clear to the listeners that Zombie Charity is little by little getting more and more like away from Kay's like ruling. Like, she's just kind of little by little, we're getting a little bit more attitude, a little bit more like snarkiness, a little bit more like there are seeds of like Zombie Charity getting away from Kay's control.
Yeah, it's very clear that it's very clear to me that she is evil. And because she is evil, is like, of course I'm evil. I'm not gonna continue to just be your lackey. I'm evil, dummy. Like, And she's just kind of biding her time until she can until we see what it is that she wants to do, because her whole thing, and we'll talk about it in just a second, is that she like loves suffering apparently. So
Yeah.
Kay's like asking her all about herself, and Zombie Charity's like, whatever you need to know about me is in this book of spells. And Kay's like, no, but I want to hear about, like, what do you, I have to read the user's manual? Like, just tell me. And Zombie Charity says, let me see if I can find the exact quote. Suffering Charity did because wacko. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. Sorry, I'm ahead in my notes. Tells her, suffering. I love suffering, and making Miguel suffer makes me one happy zombie. That's what she tells her. And so Kay's like, what are you talking about? Making Miguel suffer? Like, we're not making Miguel suffer, because Kay's delusional.
Yeah.
And the zombie's like, actually, yes, we are. Like, you're taking away the love of his life, and I mean, I'm not against it. I like it. I'm enjoying it, but it's the love of his life, and he's upset about it. And Kay says, no, I'm not causing Miguel's suffering. Charity did. Charity caused his suffering because she's a wacko and a nut job. I'm saving him from her. And Zombie Charity's like, whatever you say, Kay. And she says, I'm doing Miguel a favor by saving him from a life of lunacy with Charity. And she says, he'll be upset for a little while, but once we get married, he'll be much happier with me than he ever would have been with Charity. And on the one hand, like, I think this is all completely fucked up.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do feel like I hear where Kay is coming from, where she's like, I have to save him. He's bound and determined to be stuck with this crazy girl for life, and he refuses to see reason. I have to save him. But yeah, the way she's going about it is all wrong and all fucked up, and like, it's not her choice to make, right? It's Miguel's choice to make, right? She's taking away his choice.
Kay and Ivy are just on rescue missions. That's all.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say, I do not believe that Grace is nearly as bad or crazy as Charity. Like, Charity sucks. Huh?
She's a little crazy.
She has her little moments, but I feel like Charity's like constantly screaming and yelling, right? Like, she's constantly like
passing out and having premonitions.
I mean, I feel like I can count on one hand how many times Grace has had like her little moments, like had similar moments to Charity, but Charity has one every episode. Like, every arc is just of these kids is just Charity screaming like, "We're all gonna die. We're doomed. We're doomed. Don't you see? We're doomed." Like, I feel like Grace is nowhere near as annoying as Charity is to me, in my opinion. But yeah, I guess they are both on. I mean, they're both crazy, Kay and Ivy, in their own ways. They're both very obsessed, and they're both doing their damnedest to take away the person that they want, take away their choice in the situation, right? To manipulate it to where it seems like you chose me, but in actuality, I stole your choice from you, which is exactly what Ivy's doing, right? And that's what Kay's doing. Kay and Ivy are doing almost the exact same thing when you really think about it.
Yeah.
When you really, really think about it. So, anyway, what were we talking about? Zombie Charity, she loves suffering. Kay saying like, no, I'm not making Miguel suffer. I'm saving him. I'm his savior. And Zombie Charity's like, oh, what is it that you humans say? No pain, no gain. And yeah, Kay's like, exactly. He's gonna have a little pain, but he'll gain so much in the long run from all of this. So anyway, this is when Miguel shows up. This is when everything really goes to hell. Miguel shows up, and he comes into the room, and he's like all excited. He's like, Charity, I understand. I walked around the pond near the caves where we went skating the other night, and I realized why you're acting so weird. Dun dun dun. Kay thinks she's caught. Timmy and Tabitha are worried because they're, of course, hiding out in this house listening. And then he's like, it's because of your premonitions. And absolutely everybody in this room is confused.
Oh, let me tell you, my favorite part of this is that Timmy looks like they pan over to Timmy, and he's like, Miguel, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
He's like, this is so stupid. This theory is so stupid. It's so, like, Where did he come up with this? It's so dumb. But again, it was just another
Well, he
device.
let his mind wander, and this is what the fuck
Yeah.
he came up with,
Yeah.
right? Like he's not a thinker.
My favorite part of this is Miguel says, Charity, gifted people like you blame themselves when they have premonitions and think there's something they could do to help the people in their premonitions.
Yeah, and that's basically his whole thing is that she has premonitions, and because she has these horrible premonitions, she thinks she's a conduit for bad things, and so she's pushing people away in her life, and specifically him. She's pushing him away. And he says, "But we'll work through this. We're going to get through this and we'll be together forever." He's like, "I researched it." Huh? He's like, "I researched it and we can get through this. We just need somebody to help us. Maybe Dr. Russell." What can Dr. Russell do?
Give her a sedative.
Yeah, exactly. She needs one.
Yeah.
Actually Miguel needs a sedative right now. If I'm being honest, he's so worked up. I feel like we're not doing it justice, but he was so worked up because
Yeah.
he's so desperate. He's so desperate to hang on to this relationship. I do feel bad for him. I do. Kind of to an extent, because he tells her like this is gonna work. I mean, this can work. Like we'll figure it out, right? Kay pulls Charity to the side again, just a stupid little like narrative detail where nobody needs to know what they're saying, but we need to know what Kay's plan is. So she pulls evil Charity to the side and gives her some instructions on what to do. Evil Charity then turns back around to Miguel and tells him that his plan that his idea is stupid. It's just stupid. I think she said it like 3 times.
Yeah.
This is just stupid.
Yeah, she says, I'm pushing away because you're smothering me.
Mhm.
And I've told you already, I've outgrown this relationship, and the best part about all this, she's like, I want to partay.
Yeah, and she does like this. She just does
Yeah.
her little like rock hands. I want to partay.
She wants a nightlife. She wants to boogie.
I'm
Yeah,
not just
fun,
around.
exciting, hot. That's what she says.
Yeah. She's like, I'm bored with this. This is not enough for me.
Yeah.
And he still cannot take that as an answer.
It annoyed me. Now this is where I was like, because even though we all know that this is not the real Charity and that there's truly is something crazy going on, this is the point where Miguel, it's time for you to cut your losses because the woman in front of you is telling you no. She's saying to you, no, I'm done. And you're not taking no for an answer. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I'll give him some like benefit of the doubt is like you went from 0 to 100, right? Like, or 100 to 0 is that they were in love and everything was perfect and they were going to get married and all of this stuff. And now it's gone away. But it's been enough time where she's been treating you like shit for too long that you should just be like, you know what? I don't know what happened to you, but I'm done. And he cannot do that.
Yeah, because when she tries to break up with him, she says, "Face it, Miguel, we are not right for each other anymore." And he says to her, "No, I won't accept it. You can't just stop loving someone overnight." Fair enough, okay. And then but I will say, I do want to say this, and I know we've been going on for a long time, but I just want to add in a little bit of a personal note. Personally, I'm not saying you would stop loving somebody overnight, but there are certain things that people can say or do that turn you off so quickly that it's not that you don't necessarily love them anymore, but it's just like I don't want this, right? Like that turned me off so bad.
One of those things would have been seeing my girlfriend make out with her Uncle Hank.
Hello, right?
Yeah.
So he says you can't just stop loving someone overnight. And he's like, I'm gonna do some more research to find more evidence that it's the premonitions. And he's like, and if I can prove it, then will you go along with this plan. I don't even know what the plan is. I guess to like see Dr. Russell with a pamphlet of things. I don't know. I don't understand what his plan is.
He's grasping at straws. There really isn't anything to do here.
He grabs her by the shoulders and is like, he yells like, "I love you, Charity. I'm not gonna let you get away from me." And then he walks away. It was very Lifetime movie coded. I'm not gonna lie. It was very Lifetime movie code. I love you, Charity, and I'm not gonna let you get away from me. Whoa, buddy. I think you need to, first of all, give me a little bit of space. Take your hands off of me, because take your hands off of me, because I just broke up with you. So like this is getting close to a little bit of an assault, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, I'm not gonna let you get away from me. What do you mean you're gonna let me get away from you? Like, are you chasing me? Am I your prey? You know what I mean? Like, that language is very I don't know. So then he and Reese go downstairs to do more research and print out articles about this. I don't know, but eventually Tabitha shows up to save the fucking day, or at least to save Kay's plan.
There's two little itty bitty things that happen here. One, Tabitha shows up. Timmy and Tabitha kind of compare notes. They're eavesdropping, and it's boring. Jessica's like, "What are you doing outside?" And Tabitha's like, "No, I was about to knock, but then I heard Charity have one of those whatever the fuck she has, and I didn't want to knock." So they go downstairs, and Zombie Charity tells Kay, "Hey, don't worry. Evil begets evil. We're probably gonna get some help from somebody." So she knows Zombie Charity's basically alluding to the fact that Tabitha's out there trying to help as well, which is exactly what Tabitha's gonna do. She goes downstairs and tells Miguel, "You know what? You might be going about this the wrong way. You probably should ask Kay out on a date."
Yeah, she says, give Charity what she thinks she wants.
Super smart. Great plan.
Yeah, and so
way to go, Tabitha.
At first, Miguel refuses, but then Tabitha manages to convince him, and he walks over to Kay and asks her out on a date in front of Reese, which is crazy considering I thought he believed that Reese and Kay were together.
That was such a big thing for me, and I maybe next week they'll show us, but it was really just like, and I will say the actor's face, Ross was shocked, his jaw was open, but he gets no lines after that.
Yeah.
It ends with the two of them asking Kay on a date.
I imagine it will come up,
Yeah.
and Miguel will explain to Reese what the situation is. But like, couldn't you ask another girl?
Or tell Reese, "Hey, this is my plan," real quick. I can't believe I called him Reese. Ross.
Yeah, like let him in on what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it this week. We made it. Y'all have any more to add?
I'll just say that Tabitha had some upgraded surveillance systems this go around. She had a mirror this time that she broke when she looked into it, but she is also able to see the suspects through her martini, so that was impressive.
Oh my God. There was, at one point she looks in the mirror and it just cracks and she's like, "Yes, 7 more years of bad luck." She's like thrilled. So yeah. Karen, anything to add on at the end here?
I'm trying to figure out where exactly it fit in. I had a note about Zombie Charity. I guess Kay had given Zombie Charity her plan about. Was that when she had the fake premonition?
There we go. That's kind of huge.
I'm so glad I forgot all about that.
I see, and the note that I had was, you can fake an orgasm, couldn't you fake a premonition?
Yes. So at one point before Charity finally like breaks up or tells Miguel, I don't like you, your idea is stupid or whatever, or after, I think it's after, because at this point Kay's like grasping at straws and she tells Charity, "You know what?" or Zombie Charity, "We're going to use one of Charity's old premonitions." And so Charity goes into a fake trance and she has her premonition where she says, "Happy, I see Miguel and Kay together, happy, married, forever. I'm not your soulmate." Like, she tells him, "That's the premonition I had. I'm not your soulmate. Kay is."
I think she even says that she saw Kay and Miguel getting married.
She did. And he dismisses it as he does with all of her premonitions. I don't know why Kay thought this would work. He dismisses every single one of her premonitions. He always dismisses her premonitions, so I don't know
Yeah.
why they thought this would work. But yeah, I thank you for bringing that up because I skipped over that
Yeah, way to
entirely.
go, because
Really
I
bad.
forgot about it. And that was a huge part of this week.
It was.
I liked how I think it's how that started because Zombie is sitting upstairs and you see the other kids were downstairs. Maybe Kay is with Zombie, but Zombie's filing her nails and then she turns and gives this scream like,
Yeah.
and then starts filing her nails again.
Yeah.
A tribute to the actress because she is a good actress. We get boring Charity all the time, but it's so funny for her to be able to turn on the thing that she has to do for us all the time.
And along those lines too is like she does such a good job of making it a fake version of our regular Charity, right? Like it's very clear to us, the audience, that this is still not the real Charity, but that this evil version of Charity is putting on the act of real Charity. And so there's so many layers. There's so many layers to it. It's so good. She does a great job. Yeah. So with that's it. Y'all all right? We did it.
Way to go.
We made it to the end. This was cool. I think this format was really cool. I would love to do this
I
again
liked
with
it.
like 3 people. This was
I did
great.
too. It was very fun.
All right. So before we go, Karen, where can people find you online?
I am Karen for America on Instagram. Karen, the number 4, and then America, and Jersey Girl _ 1986 on TikTok.
All right. And Eric, where can everybody find you?
I'm at Mr. Eric Vetta on everything.
All right. And of course, you can always find me on all the social media. Just check the links in the descriptions, and I'll have their handles linked in the description as well. That's it for the week. Thank you, everybody. Bye. No, I'm joking. Here, no, with that, you are my passion for life.